life, such as my life. I had a. Oop, went to the wrong place. I've been telling everyone. I've been telling y'all about the fact that I've been doing some. I've been doing some work, or sorry, I'm like going to school. I'm taking classes with a philosophy professor that I enjoy the work of. He's like a philosophy of religion guy. Um, and I met with him yesterday for the first time to discuss a paper that I want to write. I want to write like a philosophy paper and maybe get it like published. And he thinks that the idea is good. He thinks that it has like, I don't know, he thinks that it's worth developing. So that's good. I think that that's like the best thing that one might be able to hope for. Um, so I look forward to developing the idea, I suppose. All right. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, and all the good stuff. Ooh. That one goes there. What's his name? I'm not going to share the name. Get out of here. Well, my ears are so red. It's because it's like way too fucking hot in my apartment. The worst part is that I'm like blasting the AC as well. It's fucked up, man. It's hard being me. All right. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, and all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. Thoughts on Spinoza's model? Got to get all the voice cracks out of the way in the beginning. I don't know. I think it depends on the construal of it. So, like the philosophy professor that I'm developing this paper with, who's like kind of guiding me through the process of it, he actually holds to something pretty close to Spinoza's model. Like he actually holds to something like pantheism, and I think it's interesting, right? I think there's like real, legitimate, genuine like problem of consciousness concerns that do lead to conclusions that favor things like I don't know, like Russellian monism, where you think that there's like certain qualitative experience kind of at the like embedded with the matter. Something kind of akin to like panpsychism, but I don't know. It does lead to the view that potentially the universe as like an entirety is having an experience. So, you know, I think in that sense, that's like an interesting model. I don't know. I don't think that I would say that that model is like for sure wrong. Uh, because it also accommodates like a lot of like weirdness about consciousness. But at the same time, I also don't know why we would think that there is like a unified conscious experience that's emerging from all of it. All right. Well, let's go to the very first guest. Hey, how's it going? Hello? Phase Bro? Okay. Well, if you're in that guest request box, hey, how's it going?
Hello, it's going good. How's it going for you, man?
Doing well, doing well. How old are you?
I'm 19.
Yeah, and what religion?
I'm a Christian.
Yeah, and what makes you think God exists?
I actually came here to just ask a question. Have you ever at any point in your life thought that God existed or
Yeah, when I was like
no?
a kid, I thought that God existed, and then I just thought about it a bit harder, you know?
Hmm. Okay. So what made you come to the conclusion that he isn't real?
Yeah, one of my friends pointed out what I thought at the time was a contradiction. And at that
Hmm.
point, by the time that I realized that it probably actually isn't a serious problem for God, that I don't know, I just had like way better reasons to not believe in God at that point. So,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah,
last question. I don't want to waste your time
that's
too much.
okay. Well, I don't know,
Um,
maybe I could tell you the question that he asked me, and then you could think about
sure.
it. You know, do you think that God
Sure.
has the power to make a rock that's so heavy that he can't lift it?
The God Rock paradox.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had me stumbled a little bit. Um, I don't think God can do anything that goes against his logical nature.
I see. So, but wouldn't it seem to imply that God is like constrained by something?
I don't think it's more of a constraining. I think it's just a reflection of his logical nature.
Sure, but is it logical? Like, I guess, is his nature grounded in logic?
Yes, but no, in a way. I think
Mm,
logic is grounded in his nature. I think it's the other way around.
okay. It's not really clear what it means to say that his nature is logical if his nature is the
Mm.
thing that grounds logic.
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I never really researched that because not a lot of people use that argument
Mhm.
because it's kind of sort of quote unquote debunked.
Yeah,
So I guess I
sure.
gotta research that more.
But yeah, you said you had like a final question.
Yeah, my last question is there any possibility in your mind that you think like do you think there's a any sort of possibility that God exists?
So it depends what we're asking there. There's like
Mhm.
different ways that things can be possible. I think that the mainstream models of God must be false. I think that
Okay.
there's like certain puzzles that arise. Like, for example, I don't think that we can have a God who is unchanging and then also takes actions, because in order to take actions, he would need to go from intending the action to doing the action to having done the action. And that all requires change. And, you know, if God's outside of time, then he can't change. So
So what
it
if
just
the
seems,
actions so what if the actions were a part of his like will?
yeah. In order to actually take the action, in order to go from like willing it to taking the action, and then no longer willing it, like that would be a change.
Okay. Well, nice talk.
Yep. Hey, thanks so
Sorry
much
to
for
waste
coming
your
on
time.
up. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
okay. You didn't waste my time. All right, let's go to the very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Wonderful.
Yeah, how old are you?
You don't know how old I am?
No.
I'm like 50.
Okay.
Don't you remember
Yeah.
we've talked before?
And what religion?
Christianity.
Yeah, what makes you think that God exists?
Well, obviously for me, it was the gospel of Jesus Christ and who he is, and that being presented for me. But you said something interesting about something just a second ago about logic, and I was trying to get a clarification
Hmm.
from you about that if you were
Yeah.
interested in
Yeah, go for
entertaining
it.
my question.
Sure, go for it.
Um, I just got a phone call. Can you still hear me?
I can, I can. I was wondering why there was a little delay,
Okay.
but sure, yeah. What's your question
Yeah,
about logic?
yeah, I may have to get off. But the question is, do you think the logical problem of evil refutes the Christian God?
Probably not. I haven't read the
Okay.
literature on the logical problem of evil, so I don't think that I wouldn't feel
I
confident
just was
enough.
just curious.
I think that the evidential
Okay.
problem of evil is like a serious issue for all forms of theism.
Well, let me ask you about this. If God were to explain to you why he allows evil and still maintains his triomni properties, would you believe him
Yeah,
if
if
you knew
God
it was
came
God?
down to me and was able to help me make sense of, like, for example, the billions and billions of years of animals tearing each other to shreds, inflicting agony onto each other, you know, the fact that God allows, like, some babies to get, like, raped to death, like, things like that. Yeah, if he came down and somehow made sense of it as to why he had an obligation to not intervene in a situation like this, then sure, I think I'd, you know, probably believe in him.
Okay.
But why would I think that he
So,
has like those reasons? Well, I mean, obviously, I mean, if he
well,
comes down to and like tells me, then
I
I'll
was
believe in
just
him. But
curious if
yeah,
Yeah, I was just curious because a lot of people hold the logical problem of evil as a contradiction, like a square circle. And squares can't be circles, so
mhm.
it wouldn't make sense, regardless, even if for God to tell you that you would suddenly believe in a square circle. But I'm sure that from what you're saying here is it's not necessarily the case that the logical problem of evil is a contradiction, because in theory, God could explain to you why he allows this.
Yeah,
And okay,
yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
That's all.
That's why I think the evidential problem is so much more severe, is because it doesn't seem like it seems like we're kind of caught between like a rock and a hard place, where it seems like the theist needs to adopt like a skeptical theism where they say like God just has higher ways and he does things for reasons that we can't possibly understand. But then this has implications about morality more generally that the theist probably doesn't want. So, for example,
You're
it
talking
seems
about
to,
the evidential problem, right?
yeah.
Okay.
It seems to imply that, for example, I don't know, that let's say you see a kid drowning in a lake and you stop and you reflect to yourself, well, either God's going to save this kid or he's not going to save the kid. If God's going to save the kid, then I don't really have an obligation to save him. If God's not going to save the kid, then God, knowing everything, has determined that I shouldn't save the kid. So then it doesn't seem like I have a reason to interfere in that situation either.
Okay. Well, I know, like I said, I just got a phone call and I'm going to have to return the phone call.
That's okay.
But I
Well,
was just curious to see I was just curious your thoughts specifically on the logical problem of evil. Not specifically that because you brought up logic. So I was just curious to see where you stood there.
yep.
But anyway, I'm going to have to go. By the way, I've got a brand new argument that the Bible never actually taught human on human ownership. And I'm hoping maybe to join y'all's live on Sunday and lay that out and see what you think.
Yeah, I'm sure Justin is going to have quite a bit to say about that. So sure, we look forward to that.
Yeah, hopefully I can get in line. Well,
Yep,
have a
absolutely.
wonderful day.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on up. Appreciate you. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, and all that good stuff. Yeah, a brief explainer as to the difference between the logical problem of evil and the evidentiary problem of evil. So there's a difference between like deductive arguments and like abductive inference to the best explanation style arguments. So the logical problem of evil attempts to be deductive. It attempts to reason from the premise that evil exists deductively to the conclusion that God doesn't exist. Something like premise one, if God exists, then he's all good, all powerful, and all knowing. Premise two, a being that's all good eradicates all of the evil that it knows about and has the power to prevent. Premise two, God knows, or if God is all knowing, then he just knows about all of the evil. And premise, what are we like four? If God is all powerful, then he has the power to eradicate all of the evil. Therefore, there would just be no evil, or something like that. So then that contradicts the fact that evil exists. But this version is widely seen as like killed by a lot of theists, based on something called the free will defense, where it's not saying like, well, God allows this because of free will, but rather what's being said is that it's possible. There's like a possible explanation. And if you have a possible explanation, then you can't derive a necessary conclusion like God doesn't exist. If it's possibly the case that there's an explanation for this that would justify it, that would be like consistent with the rest of the premises. Something like that. Whereas the evidential one is just like, listen, like the world just doesn't look like we would expect it to look if God existed and he was all good and powerful and knowing. Therefore, we have evidence to think that God doesn't exist. It's like an inference to the best explanation. The world does not look like it's governed by a perfectly loving being. All right. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen share with your friends and all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists. And with that, we'll go to the very next guest.
Yo,
Hey, how's
what's
it
up, Ian?
going?
Dude, you probably don't remember, but we talked like a while ago when I first found you from Jordan Peterson. Huge fan, bro. Huge fan.
Yeah. What religion are you?
Yeah, I can talk as I'm Christian, but I would really just like to talk about your time argument if that's fine. But
Sure,
if you
let's
don't
do
want to do
it.
that, we can. All right, cool. If I get a little lost, I guess we could lay out the premises. But I think I'm familiar enough where I can give like my original critique, right? So, and sorry if this is kind of jumbled. I don't want to be like glazy, but you know what I'm saying. But anyways, so time always existing. If you define time as like just the ability to like move throughout and like change, I think it's gotta always have existed with God, right? Also, I'm 20. Didn't say that, but yeah. So and then I think there's a difference there between God, if he always existed eternally, always having the property of like being able to change, giving him some form of time, versus creating a universe. Because I'm not I'm not Dr. Blitz, but I'm under the impression that like the dimension of time and the universe are like interlinked. So I don't know why God um in heaven or outside of space, whatever you want to call it, couldn't have just been changing. And then I think most people would actually subscribe to this if they gave it more thought, because in like Christian theology,
Mhm.
Satan like leaves heaven and all that. Like I feel like B theory is like necessary.
Yeah,
But
so there's like
yeah,
kind of a problem with Christianity and adopting B theory, which is that technically evil always exists. There's never actually a moment where God has defeated evil because evil is always going to exist since the entire timeline always exists. Now, you might think that that's a problem. You might not think that that's a problem. But regardless, I think that what you're going to find that you're committed to is you're going to be committed to the doctrine that creation just always existed. And at that point, it becomes unclear in what sense you would say that God created from nothing. Like, what would be the difference between God creating from nothing and God creating from something if in both cases creation always existed?
well, so when I you don't think it could possibly be escaped by like playing on these two different aspects? Because I understand the usual like changeless space thing, and I think if atheism is true, which I do,
Wait,
I
you're an
do think
atheist?
yeah.
Oh, well, I should probably
Is
move
that
on soon because you gotta.
yeah,
I
that's
only like
fine.
debates. People don't like when I talk to LARPers. But
Okay, yeah,
like,
that's
is
fine. My
there?
bad.
Yeah, I don't know. Is there? Do you have any final thoughts? Is there something you wanted to say?
Yeah, could you just recapitulate one more time like the problem with a god that is creating the like time and then he just has like eternally existed with some adjacent concept?
Yeah. So what the Christian wants to affirm is that God existed before all these other things existed. So God's the eternal thing, and these other things are not eternal. But then under the B theory of time, it's kind of all eternal.
Gotcha. Okay, and then he couldn't have just existed with that because you want him to be like above all of it, right? Like essentially.
Yeah. Well, it just means that God didn't. God isn't really like the beginning. Then, like, God isn't
Okay.
the alpha. He's not the omega. He's just
Yeah.
like an eternal dude in like a sea of eternal dudes.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. We can move on, but yeah, huge fan, man. Have a
Yep.
great day.
Hey, thanks so much. You have a
Peace.
great day
Of
too.
course.
Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, and all that good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. And with that, we'll go to the very next guest. Let's get him on up in here. Hey, how's it going? What's up, Paul? Paul? Paul. Okay. That was so sad, Paul. Why would you make me do that to you, Paul? Hey, how's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 21.
And what religion?
I believe in God.
So, Christian?
I wouldn't call myself a Christian, though.
Do you think that the Bible is true?
Of course.
Yeah.
Says a lot of true things.
Yeah. What makes you think that God exists?
Well, first of all, I want to ask you. You said God isn't real, but so do you believe in God, or is that just your prompt?
My prompt is that God isn't real. I don't believe in God.
Okay.
Like, obviously.
No, I was just making sure.
Yeah, but what makes you think that God is
Talking
real?
about lepers and stuff. But nah. So basically, I was thinking like, if God is the greatest conceivable being, right, to the highest degree, then he would be like eternal, like you were saying earlier, all that good stuff before there was any creation of the earth. Right.
Okay, but why would I think that God exists, right? Like, I understand if God exists, then he's going to be perfect, but that's kind of the place that we're trying to get to is like, why would I believe that a God exists?
Well, being that exists like in reality will be greater than one that exists only in the mind. If God believes in.
By this logic, you would say that the perfect island exists because an island that exists in reality is greater than an island that exists only in the mind?
Yeah, because existence is more like a perfection.
So you do think that the perfect island exists?
Yeah, in the mind, yeah.
Oh, wait, but in reality.
Yeah, well, just is perfection though, so.
Yeah. So here's kind of like the problem is that it seems to commit you to saying that the perfect version of everything exists in reality. You know, like the perfect sandwich maker must exist in reality because a sandwich maker would be greater if it existed in reality than if it existed only in my mind. And one of the properties of the greatest sandwich maker is that it would be making me a sandwich right now. So I should just have a sandwich right now because the greatest sandwich maker exists in reality and will make me a sandwich, but then I don't have one, so it just can't be the case. That
Right. Because if God only existed in the mind, then there could be a greater being.
God is the greatest possible being if he's instantiated.
Exactly. So it kind of contradicts itself in a way, but
No, what it's saying is that you can't get off the ground. You can't assume all these things about God or about reality or about the things that exist outside of the mind unless you establish that God is instantiated. So, yeah, God would be the greatest possible being that could exist, you know, if it's the case that he actually exists.
right. So that would mean that he must exist then.
No.
If that's true. If that's true, that would mean he
No,
must exist.
why would that follow?
Because of what you just said.
Nope. You know, things in the mind can have a contradiction in them. For example, people can believe two contradictory things. So, for example, you know, if you believe that God would be a greater being in the mind or in reality than he would in the mind, that's compatible with also believing that God isn't in reality insofar as the contradiction is one that's between your beliefs. You know, you're basically just saying that the non-existent being has like a
Yeah.
contradiction in him. And that's fine, right? Non-existent beings are contradictory often.
Yeah, that was just purely conceptual though. That really didn't have any substance for
What I just said?
No, what I like the whole argument that I came up with.
Sure, that's fine.
But yeah, the reason why I think God exists though really is because the way the whole earth is split up into different people and everybody speaks different languages.
Why would God want that?
Well, because he has his own people that he has chosen, and he wants
God
to separate them
created
from the rest.
racial groups?
In a way, yeah.
Did God also instill us with our sense of tribalism?
Maybe, I don't know. That's probably a human thing.
So, okay, you're saying that, did you say earlier that God is like a favorite racial group? He has like his chosen people?
I mean, it's not necessarily a racial group, but yeah.
Who are his chosen people?
People. Well, of course. I mean, I'm sure you've read the Bible. It's the children of Israel.
Why the fuck would an all-loving God have a favorite people group?
Well, I mean, he loves everybody. It's not like he doesn't.
But he has like a favorite.
So that's fine. People have favorite kids all the time, and they still love other kids.
I don't know. It doesn't seem like you'd be an all-loving parent if you had a favorite kid. It certainly doesn't seem like you'd be a very fair parent, like a just parent, if you had a favorite kid.
I mean, teachers have favorite students all the time.
Yeah, and teachers aren't perfectly just. You know, ideally they wouldn't.
They wouldn't what?
They wouldn't have a favorite kid. They would treat everybody equally. Come on. You know that this is silly. Come on.
It's not really silly though if you think about it though.
This is like deeply silly. The idea that this all-loving, all-just God created different people groups so that he could have a favorite people group is silly.
I mean, there's really like a thing here that's called a covenant though, that's like established with his people though. Just because he loves everybody else doesn't mean he has to make agreements with everybody else.
But is that fair? Is it like fair to have a favorite people group?
I mean, yeah. I mean, in the case of the Bible, yes. In the case of our world, yeah.
What did they do to deserve being the favorite people group?
They were chosen.
But what did they do to deserve to be chosen?
They didn't do nothing. They were just chosen.
Then that's unfair to the rest of them.
Specific.
God's making these choices arbitrarily. God arbitrarily picked a favorite people group.
Nah.
That's what you just said. You just said that he just chose them because he wanted to.
Yeah,
They
that was
didn't
his
deserve to
choice.
be chosen. God just chose a favorite people group for some reason.
Yeah, but I mean that doesn't mean that not everybody cannot be saved.
That's fine, but it just means that God is unjust. He's
How?
also irrational. If God is doing things that he doesn't have a reason to do, then he's an irrational being. God is out here picking favorite people groups without a reason to prefer this people group over that people group. So he's making the decision for no reason.
I mean, it wasn't really like that though, because God did call Abraham to leave his home and test Abraham's faith.
Couldn't he have done that for
Promising,
anyone?
yeah, but he chose Abraham. He promised to make his descendants a great nation.
But why did he choose Abraham?
I don't know, like, what you want me to get God in here and figure that out? Like,
It just makes no sense, right? I mean, you
it
know,
kind of does.
so our brains, like one of the cognitive biases that humans have is that we're disposed towards tribalism. We value things like group identity, and it really turns off things like the empathy region in our brain when we cast certain people as the outgroup. The fact that God would make us different like people groups or different racial groups, you know, that fact is really unexpected unless what God wants is something like racism. Like God created like the necessary preconditions for something like racism. Why wouldn't God make like the racially homogenous world instead of like
that was more something that humans did actually?
Okay, would we be able to be racist if there weren't any races?
That's something I was just gonna ask you. So, would you think it was just that we were all just the same, like, race? I guess just one race.
If you go back far enough, yeah. Well, if you go back like far in our like to the emergence of the Homo sapien, then like yeah, more or less. But I mean, okay, you didn't really answer my question.
That's not answering my question.
Wait, sorry,
No.
you didn't answer my question. Do you think that you can be racist if races don't exist?
If you can't tell, God is in the midst, though. We just said the same word.
Okay, he's not going to answer my question.
You're right. I will have to because I'm the spokesman. They see my name.
Okay.
What was the question again? Sorry,
yeah. Do you think that it would be possible for humans to be racist if there were no races, if God just made us all like the same, I don't know, like skin color and gave us like more or less the same features?
I mean, not because we would all be equal.
Yeah, sure. Then it sounds like, you know, God enabled this great evil.
Right.
So why would he enable this great evil when he just couldn't have not done that?
It's not really like, because look, if you really think about it, like, so Abraham was in the city of Ur, and that city did have a lot of idolatrous worship practices, and it was really a sophisticated culture that had a lot of civic structures. So him calling out Abraham is like a distinctive kind of like turning point, I guess, in the Bible, because instead of Abraham blending into all these other deities that was in the city of Ur, he was summoned to follow one God that manifested his will through him.
You already said earlier that Abraham didn't deserve this treatment any more than anybody else did. So this is still God making an irrational action because he's taking an action that he doesn't have a reason to take.
Yeah, so that I didn't know. So that's where I just kind of contradicted myself, but I'll take that back what I said.
Okay, sure. So did Abraham deserve to be the chosen person?
Yeah, he did, because he wasn't following all these other idolatrous things and cultures that they had in Ur, in the city of Ur.
Okay, but why wouldn't I think that there's like some other people in some other place that were doing the same thing? Like there's like at least one person who isn't following, like basically what you're saying is that he's like an atheist, right? You know, if he's at first, like if he's not engaging in idolatry. Okay, wait, did he know that Yahweh existed? Did everybody else know that Yahweh existed? There are so many questions here.
No, I don't think so, because that
if he didn't know that Yahweh existed and he didn't worship the things that aren't Yahweh, then he was just an atheist.
I mean, maybe he might have been, because that was a time where there was a lot of polytheism, and I don't really think he believed in any of that stuff. So maybe he could have been in today's definition of an atheist.
Okay, so then I don't know. It's like kind of weird, right? That the thing that Abraham did that made him deserving of getting chosen is that he was an atheist. That what God valued in Abraham was his atheism.
Right, that was like distinctive.
Yeah, but from your point of view, why is that better than being like a polytheist?
Well, because God wants people to worship him, and he knew that Abram was going to be that guy that started it off.
I bet these polytheists probably would have worshipped him if he actually revealed himself.
Maybe, but who knows the practices that they had? We could probably go in the Bible and find the practices that they had.
Yeah, but I just have no reason to think that if God had revealed himself to these people, that they wouldn't have just followed him. I mean, wouldn't you, right? If there's like a God, if you didn't know anything about anything, and then like some God comes down from the clouds and does like miracles in front of you, probably you're just going to follow that guy.
Right, but it really wasn't like miracles that was happening out there. It was more pagan cultures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But even then, like doing anything supernatural, anything that's like inexplicable, you're probably going to be able to acquire followers just by doing that.
Right, but that's why God works in mysterious ways, and he came out just to Abram.
Okay. Yeah,
And I
that
know they
doesn't
say
really
that.
seem to explain why God would do any of this.
It's just like these cities, these like Earth, they were very wild. Like they're anti-natural. Like, you know, like there wasn't really a lot of good things happening in these cities.
Okay. You know, if only there was like some being that could have done something about that, like revealing himself to them and giving them like proper moral guidance, you know, if only. Oh, wait. Yahweh could have done that. You know, Yahweh
Right, but
could have
he knew-
avoided
he
all
knew
of
that.
this by just like sending them down some commandments, you know, giving them like a prophet.
Yeah, that's what he did with Abram.
He did that to the city of Ur.
No, he did that with Abram.
Yeah, I know he did that with this one guy, but he could have done that to all the rest of them. Regardless, I don't know. I don't think any of the story really makes sense. Do you have anything
I mean,
else?
God is all-knowing though, so he did know that those people wouldn't be fit for that. So
Does God know? If God's all knowing, do you think God has the power to win the game?
what game?
The game where the point is to not know or think about the game? The game that you just lost? The game that everyone just lost?
You just reminded me of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Do you think God has the power to win the game if he's all knowing?
Well, God created the game, so I don't think he's playing it at all.
Okay, but does he have the power to win it?
I mean, if he made it, then yeah, he would know how to win the game.
Okay, sure, but then that would imply that he's not all knowing.
What?
Because there's something
How
that
does
he's
that make
not thinking
sense?
about.
How does that make sense? If he's outside of the game, he's not playing the game.
Everyone's playing the game. That's the point of the game.
Nah. This I don't know, this game thing, like I don't know, did you catch this in a dream or something? I don't know where you got this from.
It's a powerful argument. You know, I think Plato gave this argument. I
Oh,
think
did
Nietzsche
he?
speaks of this.
Oh, maybe I'll have to look into that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. You're the first guy that ever heard that. And I know you're very knowledgeable, so.
Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before I move on to the next guest?
Nah, I think I did what I had to do here and
Yeah.
prove
Hey,
that
thanks
God
so
is real.
much. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to the very next guest. If you're in that guest request box, I ask that you be 18 or older, that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran, and also that you have some reason to think that God exists as we go to the very next guest. Let's get him on up in here. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Yeah, you're a bit muffled.
Hold on one second.
You might need to disconnect your Bluetooth.
All right, Bluetooth's off.
Yep,
Can you hear
cool.
me now?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 31.
And what religion?
Christian.
Yeah, what makes you think that God exists?
I think the evil of man is pretty evident that a good would exist, which would have to point to God.
Well, I think the evil of man is a good reason to think that God doesn't exist. It just seems like if God's an all good being, then God would be morally obligated to do something about it. You know, in the same way that, let's say that I knew that there was like a rape taking place outside, I would have a moral obligation to do something about this. And, you know, God has the knowledge and power to stop all of this, so it seems like God too would have an obligation.
Do you think without Christian morality, do you think that those things would still be without Christian morality over the last, 2,000 years? Do you think those things would even be frowned upon
Yeah,
or even
absolutely.
known to be evil? Well, I think that 2,000 years ago, those things weren't actually evil.
Yeah,
And even,
well, society certainly didn't think so, and, you know, even going
Exactly.
back like 1,000 years ago, people didn't see those things as evil either. You know, you would think that the Christian morality would work, but somehow mysteriously it doesn't take effect until the Enlightenment with people like Kant and Locke, who emphasize the importance of things like freedom and autonomy and consent.
Well, actually, in the 1500s, when Hernan Cortez went to Mexico and stopped all the child sacrifice through the Crusades in the
Do you think
name of
that's before
Christianity.
or after Kant?
Oh, that's way before Kant.
Yeah, you know, they did quite a bit of raping too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not saying that that's man, right? That's the evil of man. So no matter what, we're gonna be doing evil acts.
Does God
and-
have would you say that God has like a moral obligation to stop rape?
God gives us free will, and we men can choose
That's not
what
really
they
what
do.
I asked. I just asked, like, do you think God is morally
would
obligated?
God have a moral obligation? I mean, obviously, he tells us what's right and
does.
wrong to do.
Okay,
He
so
tells us what's right
God
and
has a
wrong.
moral obligation to stop rape, which means that he doesn't fulfill his moral obligation every time he doesn't stop one.
He does it through man doing good deeds through God and through the Holy Spirit.
But not every rape gets stopped. So if you agree
No,
that
it
God has a
doesn't,
moral
unfortunately, because
obligation
there's-
to
Okay, go
stop rape, and you agree that not every rape gets stopped, then you would agree that God doesn't fulfill his moral obligations.
His moral obligation is through us to give us life and for us to do good things, right? And to stop those things. And that's what people attempt to do when they're doing good deeds, right? And they're doing it through the lens of or through the Holy Spirit, which empowers them to do good things, right?
So, okay, it seems like there's just this obvious contradiction in your view. I'm not really sure how you want to resolve it. You kind of seem to try to like talk around it. I guess we can just get like very direct with this. When I say that God has a moral obligation to stop this thing, I'm saying that if God is ever in a situation where he can stop it, that he has a reason to do so, and that it would be wrong for him to not do so.
Well, I'm saying that unfortunately men have free will, so men can do what they want, and it's up to other good men to stop those things. And when I say men, I mean
sure. Wait,
obviously
so do you
humans,
think that
right?
God has like a moral obligation to stop these things or not?
Through man, like men are supposed to. This is the fallen world, right? So we're in the fallen world where sin and evil.
If man stops it through their own free will, then how did God fulfill any of his obligation?
That's through good things. Through
how would God
acts,
even
right?
be morally responsible in a situation like that? Like, in order for God to fulfill the obligation, he needs to actually take the action. So if you're saying that, well, it's just free will, it operates through humans' free will, then, you know, God didn't take that action. That's not God's action.
It's not God's action. It's through the belief, through the being empowered in the Holy Spirit to be able to stop things. And like, what are we doing? Like, what do you mean stopping the rape, for example? Like,
you don't know what it means to stop a rape?
Like, what would you think God would do in that scenario?
Yeah, you could
just explode his head?
No, you could like teleport him into like a prison cell or something with like, you know, video footage of the event sent to like the prosecutor's office so that they have ample evidence. Or you know, alternatively, God could simply not create the rapist in the first place. You know, if I knew that, let's say I was about to have sex with my wife and we were gonna conceive a child, but I knew with absolute perfect certainty that my kid is going to grow up to be a rapist, I just wouldn't have that kid.
But you could never know that.
But what if somebody told you, and I don't know, what if God came down and told you that if you were to impregnate your wife, that your son will grow up to be a rapist? Would you just choose not to have that kid? Because I would choose not to have that kid.
Well, I don't know why God would teach you that or tell you that. Why would God?
It's a hypothetical. You know, if God did that, would you change your mind about having sex and having the kid?
No, because that kid's going to grow up with free will, and he's going to be able to make his own decisions and have consciousness.
If your kid was going to grow up to be Adolf Hitler, would you still have that kid?
Why would that be? Why would that be even a scenario?
If
Like,
God
why is
comes
that a
down and
scenario?
tells you that your kid's going to be Adolf Hitler, would you still have that kid?
Yes. I don't. 'Cause that
That's
kid would
crazy.
have.
That's like insane.
That kid would have free will. He wouldn't be Adolf Hitler.
That is insane. It's insane that you would do that.
Okay, I'm like, how?
You don't
I don't
think
understand the
that-
hypothetical.
You don't
Like,
think
if
that
there's
stopping
no way
Adolf
that
Hitler is a
someone-
good thing? You don't think that that would be a good thing to do?
Obviously, that's a good thing, but
But
like,
you
that's
just
not.
said that
I'm
you
just
wouldn't
saying that's
stop
not a
Adolf Hitler.
scenario.
You just said that you would still impregnate your wife even if you knew that she would produce Adolf Hitler as like the
Because
child.
there's no way of knowing that. That's
But if God
not
came down
even-
and told you that, then you would know.
But God wouldn't come down and tell you that because
Why not?
Everyone has free
God
will.
never
We have
told
free
anybody
will.
anything about the future? Are you sure?
He did absolutely in the
Yeah.
Old Testament, but in the
Oh,
New
also
Testament,
in the New Testament, Jesus
in the New
tells Peter
Testament,
that
Jesus.
he'll deny him 3 times.
Yeah, but that's Jesus Christ, you know.
Yeah,
And
so
that's the
God.
coming of the Son of Man. Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah,
God.
so then God does
But-
tell people what's going to happen in the future.
He's not telling you to not impregnate your wife. In
Well,
fact,
no,
we're
and
called to
neither is he
create
in my
life.
scenario. He's just telling you what's going to happen. So similarly, why is it impossible for God to come down and tell you that if you have this child, he's going to grow up to be Adolf Hitler?
That's just not something that would happen.
Why not?
Like, because God doesn't come down and tell you things like that.
Why not?
I mean, that's not what I would believe that would happen.
Okay,
And
so
I
you
guess,
just don't
you know,
think
that's
so, right? So
obviously-
the reason why you can't even engage with the possibility of the hypothetical is because you just don't think so. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess so.
Or does it like shred your position so thoroughly, which is why like you have like a vested interest in not engaging with it?
I just don't understand like a hypothetical. Like, why is that? Like,
Because
God isn't real, right?
it's a
Like, why?
question
How
of
is that a?
our
How is a
position
hypothetical
as
about
opposed to God's.
Adolf Hitler, like the worst evil, right? That of the last 100 years, right? Like, why is that the hypothetical of like God not existing, right? I'm telling
Yeah.
you that it's my answer. I get what you're saying. Obviously, that's horrible and like that's a shocking answer, right? To say no, I just don't believe men have free will, and we all have free will to choose what we do, right?
Mhm.
And
But how
I
does it take away
understand.
free will if you just don't have the child in the first place? Whose free will is taken away from them if you just don't have the child in the first place?
Right, but I mean, what if we really wanted to have a
Wait, answer the
baby,
question.
You know? Like,
Whose free will
What
is
if the-
taken away if you just don't have the child that grows up to be Adolf Hitler?
the child's
The
free will is taken
non-existent
away.
person? Wait, so you think not creating somebody takes away their free will?
No, I'm just like hypothetically,
That's
if
what
we're
you
like,
just
let's say
said.
if we're having you. No, I'm saying if
Whose
we
free
were
will
going
gets
to
taken
have
away?
if we were going to have a child, then our future child their free will would be taken away if we just weren't having, you know, because obviously, you know, a child starts as the egg, right, and that gets fertilized, right, so that egg would be, you know, dumped that month and then gone. But
In
I'm
this
just saying that.
scenario, you wouldn't even be getting to the egg stage in the first place. Instead, you would be, I don't know, like wearing a condom or something.
Okay, so you're asking whose free will gets taken away?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just told you my future child.
Okay, so do you think that the fact that you're not impregnating your wife right this second is taking away the free will of a child that isn't coming into existence?
Well, she is pregnant, so that's probably why I'm a little
But if she weren't
get a little
pregnant,
emotional about it, right?
yeah, if she weren't pregnant, would it then be true that you're like taking away the free will of someone?
Well, my future child, yeah.
Yeah. I guess, like, do you think that I'm taking away the free will of someone by not actively impregnating my girlfriend every single time that she's able to be?
No, absolutely not. No.
Why not? What's the difference?
Well, I'm just saying that we are having children, right? That's our choice to
Yeah.
have children, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just saying that, you know, if our act is to have children, we want to have children, and then we decide, like, for whatever reason that we're not, then our future kids' lives are at stake at that point, right? It's you know, if you're minded around starting a family and having children, then you know, everything is kind of around the future children, right?
But why does
that
it
make
take
any
away the
sense?
free will of the non-existent child in one case but not the other?
If you're planning to have children, I mean, and then for whatever reason you just don't, or you pull out or whatever, then, you know, your future children. You're not going to have future children in that instance.
Yeah.
I don't understand the
So
question.
you
I don't
take away the
understand what
free
we're
will by
talking
not
about
having the
at this point.
child. So it seems to be that you're saying the criteria that qualifies you for taking away someone's free will is if you don't have a child. If you don't impregnate someone, that takes away the free will of the child that would have come from the pregnancy.
I'm just not really gathering like
Does
what
God take
like
away the free will of all the people that he doesn't create?
Does God take away all the free will of the people he doesn't create?
Yeah,
No.
there are like infinite people that God hasn't created. Has God taken away the free will of those people?
I think it's just whoever's created, right? It would just be whoever is created onto this earth.
But you think that people who never come into existence in the first place can have their free will taken away?
No.
So do you think that if God doesn't create someone, does that take away their free will?
Well, no, because no.
Yeah, sure. So if God didn't create Adolf Hitler, would that take away Adolf Hitler's free will?
No, but God didn't create Adolf Hitler. I mean, like, in a sense, yes, he created him, but his choices were his choices.
I thought
right?
God was the creator of all things.
He's an evil person. He created him, but his actions aren't God's fault. It's man's fault.
Certainly they are. If God could have not created him, and God knew exactly what he would do if he did create him.
He chose to do those things, right? And
yeah, but God chose to create him knowing that he would do those things. God chose for him to make those choices.
Well, because man has free will. So we're just kind of going in circles here. Like,
you would have to agree that God chose the timeline where Adolf Hitler would do those things instead of the timeline where Adolf Hitler doesn't even exist in the first place.
No, because
you
even
disagree with that? You don't think that's true? That God chose the timeline where Adolf Hitler did exist as opposed to the one where he didn't?
Of course, right?
Sure,
like there's only one. There's one timeline, but I'm not saying that that God is like creating Adolf Hitler and Holocaust, right? Like that's a man-made creation.
But God does choose the timeline where Adolf Hitler chooses that.
Well, then in your okay, so like to argument against that, okay, so then God created FDR and Winston Churchill and Stalin to combat him. And combat him in World War II and defeat Adolf Hitler.
Yeah,
by that same argument.
Presumably, the better scenario would be where they weren't even needed in the first place.
Well, I'm just
I don't think
by your
the
same
goodness
argument,
of
like that's
overcoming
exactly
Adolf Hitler makes up for the evilness of Adolf Hitler.
That's your argument, though. Like if there's evil, right, and God allows evil, then God is allowing the good to come in and destroy evil.
So the problem is that God stands in like a direct causal relationship by making the timeline in the first place. God chooses which timeline to make, knowing every event that's going to happen. By doing this, God guarantees that all of those events are going to happen with his perfect foreknowledge.
Yeah, and God knows that we're all evil, and we're all evil. Like okay. God knows that, and God creates evil.
If God knows, created man. Let's say God creates the timeline where Adolf Hitler does the Holocaust. Is it possible that Adolf Hitler doesn't do the Holocaust if God creates that timeline?
But he didn't. He's created one timeline, one world. Like this is the fallen.
Breakfast, yeah.
This is the fallen world, man. So this is evil.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to engage with the hypothetical? Like, if God creates the timeline, knowing in advance everything that's going to happen, knowing that Adolf Hitler is going to do the Holocaust, is it possible for Adolf Hitler to not do the Holocaust?
Is it possible? Yeah, he could create his.
Then it's possible for God to not be all-knowing.
How do you gather that?
Yeah, because when God creates this timeline, he does so with the knowledge of what's going to happen. He knows, if I create this timeline, then Adolf Hitler is going to do the Holocaust. Absolutely, certainly, that's a necessary truth. And he knows that he's going to create the timeline. Therefore, it would just be necessarily true.
Dude, God created the timeline in which Jesus was killed by his own people. Like, evil is among us. God gave his only son because he loved the world, right?
Is that just? It was just?
Like, no, it's the most unjust. That's the most unjust thing that ever happened. And you know who committed that was man. Man killed Jesus.
Yeah, sure, but God gave Jesus knowing that was going to happen. Let's say
because he knows that men are evil.
Let's say the town pedophile comes around and wants to hang out with my young child, and then I give my child over to the town pedophile, knowing what's going to happen. You know, I think both me and him did something pretty seriously wrong there in a situation like that. I think both of us would bear like severe moral responsibility in that situation.
Yeah, exactly.
So then God would
I see
also,
where
to make it analogous, God would also have to bear moral responsibility.
I understand what you're saying, but that was for the salvation of all people. You giving, you know, a child to a pedophile, like that's not for the salvation of all people, and we're not God.
Couldn't God have just done that anyway?
Well, he did through
But couldn't
sacrificing
God have
his
done
own.
that? Why did he need to sacrifice Jesus? Why couldn't he have just snapped his fingers and made a difference?
Well, Jesus knew, right? Jesus sacrificed himself. Jesus is God. So, I mean, he made that decision for himself.
Why? Why was that necessary?
For the salvation of all of our sins, man.
Why? Why did the salvation of
Because
all of our sins require human sacrifice?
we did that to him because we got the one sinless person, the one perfect person, right, of good,
But why?
and we killed him. That proves because men are evil.
But why would
that's
we
the
need
world
to
we live in.
sacrifice Jesus in order to achieve salvation? Why is that necessary? Why couldn't God have just snapped his fingers and then no more sacrifice and everyone can get salvation if they want?
Well, because we're in the fallen world, and this world is ran by man and evil doings. Like you look all around you.
But why does that
I mean,
require
like I said,
Jesus to sacrifice himself? Why?
let me think about it. I mean, I think he sacrificed himself and then he rose from the dead. So that was to show that he's more powerful than death, right? So for 40 days, he was actually alive after the resurrection.
Why did he need to show that he's more powerful than death? Why does that change anything? Like, why is the sacrifice necessary in the first place?
That's to show that he's God. He overcame death. And there was actually
Why does he need to do
a
that?
story of him raising someone else from the dead named Lazarus. And he raised him from the dead as well as one of his miracles.
Why would any of that even be necessary? Like, none of this makes any sense. Like, why
Well,
Jesus
because
would
he
need to
was-
sacrifice himself in the first place?
Because he was Son of Man, and he needed to show that even a perfect man would be killed by
Why did he
men.
need to
And
show that?
Because men are evil, man.
Why? And why would Jesus sacrificing himself? So he wanted to show the evil man how cool he was by like committing suicide and then resurrecting?
He didn't commit suicide. He was
Didn't he?
was killed, man. He was crucified.
If you like sacrifice yourself, isn't that like, you know, for example, like I'd consider like death by cop a form of suicide. It kind of
Sure.
sounds like that you're saying that's what Jesus did.
Not necessarily, because he actually had no crimes against him.
Yeah.
He didn't do any crimes. You know, they falsely accused him of being a false prophet, even though he was running around saving lives and committing miracles and spreading the word of God,
Yeah.
which is just love for one another, right?
Yeah, but he like took
So-
an action knowing exactly what was going to happen, knowing that he was going to get killed for doing those things. I don't know. It
Yeah,
seems kind of
because
in the
he's,
nature
you know,
of a
he's
suicide. But it's still super unclear why he would even need to do any of that in the first place. You know, I feel like I still don't have like a clear
to prove
answer.
that men are okay. To
Why
prove
does,
that
why
men
does
are
Jesus
evil.
need to prove anything to us?
Because he's the Son of Man. That's what he came to do, man. And they call him teacher in the Bible.
Why would
to
he
teach
come
us.
here to prove us things? Why does Jesus care?
Because he wants the salvation of all his people that he loves, man.
And why does sacrificing himself do that? Why couldn't he have done that just by snapping his fingers and making it so?
He tried, you
Why?
know.
Ooh,
he was
wait,
trying to
did he
convince
fail?
people. He tried to convince people. Yeah, of course, he fails every day, man. I mean,
Sure.
we
Well, then
we
he's not
fail
all
him every
powerful.
day, right? We fail him every day. That's
Okay.
what I meant to say.
Sounds
He
like he's
doesn't.
not all powerful then.
I mean, you know, that's I understand that's your take, man, but you know, I'm trying to articulate the argument biblically, right? So we fail to fulfill his promise, and we fail every day, and that's why men are evil, right?
Okay.
And he's not going to show himself now. It's going to take, you know, all of Revelation to go through all of that stuff for him to show himself again. But
Let's say that you have the power to make all cancer disappear instantly forever. Do you think doing that's the right thing to do?
yes,
Okay. Does God think that doing that's the right thing to do?
apparently not. You know,
Yeah, so between you and God, who's right?
I mean, I would obviously I'm not God, dude, so I don't know.
But
And
you're not
I
sure
understand.
you're not sure if you're right and God's wrong or if God's right and you're wrong?
I mean, God is all knowing, all powerful. I'm not going to say I'm more correct than God because I am a man and I'm evil.
Is God more correct than you?
Yes, always.
Yeah, sure. So then you would agree that the correct thing is that curing cancer actually isn't a good thing to do. If you had the power to make all cancer disappear instantly, doing that wouldn't be a good thing to do.
If I had the power to do that, I would do it, right?
But
But
God wouldn't.
I'm not God, and I can't do that, and I can't play God and pretend that I know why cancer exists. And it's the same exactly. It's biological life, right? Like cancer is a growth that just grows inside of you, you know, and it's horrible. I
The
don't
problem
like
is
cancer.
that God wouldn't do that. That's like kind of the core of the critique, is that God always does the morally perfect thing. God doesn't cure cancer. Therefore, it can't be the case that curing cancer is the morally perfect thing.
I mean, Christianity isn't like it's not like a, it's the religion of suffering, right? Like we're all persecuted, we're all in the fallen world, right? And we're all promised an afterlife after if we follow Jesus, right? So all these things that happen that kill us every day, right? I'm not saying that that's right to me, but you know, we're called to suffer. We're men on a horrible world, you know, on the fallen world.
Yeah, so I went ahead and I just formalized the argument. We're going to get really clear about which premise here you reject. So I have the argument like this. If something is the right thing to do, then God will do it. God doesn't cure cancer, therefore curing cancer isn't the right thing to do. Which premise here would you reject? You got to reject one or two, otherwise the conclusion just follows.
Well, there's arguments that God does cure cancer, right? There's arguments that
So cancer doesn't exist?
No, I'm not saying that, man. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like people live after cancer. There's been plenty of cases.
No, I agree people live after cancer. I'm talking about curing all of it.
That's what I'm saying, is that like that's just like a biological anomaly. It's like
so
saying,
wait, would you
like,
reject premise one or premise two?
If something is the right thing to do, God will do it. I would say one. I agree.
You don't think God always does the right thing?
No, I agree with one. I think.
Okay, yeah, you agree with one. Okay, and let me clarify this for you. God doesn't cure all cancer forever.
That's like, bro, that's like saying God stops murder forever, you know?
But which premise here is false? I just want to know.
2 is false.
You think that God does cure all cancer forever, so there's no cancer?
Oh, okay. No. Okay. Curing cancer all forever isn't the right thing. Curing cancer all forever isn't the right thing to do. I mean, I don't know, man. I just look like, what if you don't believe that in God, like with cancer, right? Then what is your answer for that?
What's my answer for cancer? You want like the causal explanation?
No, I mean, like, I just don't understand, like, why, like, okay, humans suffer all the time, right? We all have viruses, diseases, kids die every day, we get raped, we get fucking bombed, you know what I mean? Like, that's all horrible stuff.
Yep.
But that's all, you know, that's all like man-made stuff. We're talking about like killing, rape, murder, all that kind of shit.
Sure.
But as far as cancer, you know what I mean? Like it's like a biological, it's other life on this earth taking our life. Does that make sense? Or even like viruses, right? Like that's other life taking over our life and killing us, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know the answer to that. And, you know, I don't pretend to, I mean, it's the same. I would look at it like Christian, as a Christian, I would look at it in the same way as someone dying. Like it's horrible. It sucks. Like I don't want anyone to die, and I don't want them to leave me in this world, right? But you know, there's hope for the afterlife afterwards. You know.
Sure.
And as far as like Christian, as far as like
well,
you know, I don't think that
the conversation's kind of winding down. There's somebody I want to talk to. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. I appreciate you coming up, by the way. As we go to the very next guest.
Hey, brother, how you doing today?
Hey, doing well. How old are you?
I'm 36.
Yeah, and what religion?
Sorry?
What religion?
I don't follow religion. I follow Christ.
Oh, of course, yeah. Sure. What makes you think that God exists?
Well, I have 2 questions for you. May I ask them?
Yeah.
Do you consider yourself a man of logic and reasoning?
I think that I try to be, yeah.
Okay, so which sounds most plausible to you, coming from a creator God or coming about by accident from nothing?
Well, it's a question of the other conditions, right? You know, is our genome a mess that took billions of years to evolve? And it
Listen,
looks
I'm
like
not
it.
here to
Whoa,
debate
wait,
your
let's
hatred
just
for
calm
Christ. I
down
want you to
there.
answer my
Let's just
question.
calm
Can you
down
answer
there.
my
There's
question or
no
not?
need for you to get upset. I'm giving you the
I'm
answer.
not upset.
I'm
I
answering you
came here.
pretty
I asked you. I
directly.
wanted to
Whoa,
ask two
wait, sorry. And I'm
questions.
giving you a very direct answer as to
No,
what
you're
sort of
not. You're
things that are
giving me
going to
your
be
opinion.
relevant. Whoa, just
Your
calm the
opinion.
fuck
It's
down
not a
there.
direct answer.
You sound like you're on the verge of tears. Like, it's really not that serious. Seriously, calm
because you
down.
can't
It's
answer
going to
the
be
question.
okay. I answered the
That's
question
why
pretty
you're ranting
directly.
on. You
I
keep
answered
ranting
the
on because you
question
cannot
pretty
answer the question,
directly.
correct?
That the
You can't
question
answer it,
in
can
its
you?
nature is
You can't
underspecified,
answer it,
which is
can
why
you?
we need to
Can you?
add more information to it. It's a question of whether or not, based on the conditions, we would expect that we came about via like a chancy process, which it looks like our genome did come about via a chancy process. Otherwise, you're going to need to come up with an explanation for why we have so much useless DNA if we were designed by a perfect God.
Listen, all you're spewing to me is indoctrinated bullshit. I don't care about it.
Okay.
I
Can
just
you
need you to answer my
summarize back to
question.
me what the argument is?
The first question: do you consider
Okay, he
yourself a
wasn't
man
even
of logic and
listening.
reasoning?
Yeah, now you've short-circuited back to the beginning of your dialogue tree.
You just asked me to repeat the question I asked you.
No, repeat my argument.
There was no argument. It was
okay,
nonsense, bro. It was nonsense.
If it was nonsense, then summarize it back. You weren't listening. How do you know it was nonsense if you weren't even listening?
Because I don't believe in indoctrinated bullshit. That's
okay.
Why.
What's the argument against it?
You have Christ and you have indoctrination. What do you mean?
What did I say that was indoctrinated bullshit?
Every word that came out of your mouth, bro.
The word the indoctrinated bullshit?
No, where did you hear the?
In the sentence that I said. You know,
I
the
said
explanation
every word
that I was
came
giving.
out of your mouth was pure indoctrination.
Yes.
Yes, it was. Thank
in
you
my
for agreeing with me, brother.
explanation,
Thank you.
I said the word the, so you'd be committed to saying that the word the is indoctrinated bullshit. You know, you should really stop grandstanding. God. You should eat some humble
pie. What a cupcake you are. Man, you are a cupcake for real.
It's really weird that I'm a cupcake when you're the one getting eaten.
Why can't you answer my question, though? Why can't you answer my second question?
Why do you keep short-circuiting?
Just answer it. Hey, bro. Yeah. Just answer my second question.
Yeah, we came about via a chancy process.
You believe we came from a creator God, or do you believe we came about by accident from nothing?
Evidenced by the fact that our DNA is full of errors.
Just answer the question.
I just answered it.
It's not that difficult, bro.
I just answered it.
Oh my God! No, you have not.
Yeah, what did I just say?
Just answer the question.
Do you want the answer a third time?
Which sounds most plausible to you?
Third time,
do we come from a creator God, or do we come about by accident from nothing? That's it.
Good boy.
Just answer the question.
Yeah, I'll answer you a third time.
You go.
I'll give you the answer for a third time.
Well,
yeah, we came from a chancy process.
I'm telling you right now.
Wait, do you want to ask the question a fourth time?
Oh, should I? Do you want me to?
Do you want to actually engage with the answer?
I want to hear your answer.
I just answered
my question.
Do you want it a?
All I want is the
fourth
answer to my
time,
question.
Dude, holy shit.
But you're the third person I've encountered like this, and all they do is they keep ranting on about nonsense. They can never answer the question.
You didn't even listen to the answer.
You never answered the question. You ranted on about nonsense.
I did.
I asked you.
Wait, can you summarize back what my answer was? If I didn't answer the question, then just summarize back to me what my answer was. You're not listening to my answers. That's the problem. That's how you don't even know that I answered the question 3 times already, because you don't even listen.
Oh, because it's nonsense. That's
then,
why.
Wait, what did I say? If it's nonsense, then say it back to me.
No, just answer my question.
He wasn't listening.
Which sounds most plausible to you?
You just got caught.
Please, may I
You
speak?
literally.
May I speak?
Wait, and now
may
you're begging on your knees to go back to the top of the dialogue tree for the 4th time.
Oh my
so
goodness,
I can answer
bro!
you a 4th time. Is that what you want? You want the answer for the 4th time?
Yeah, I want the answer.
Okay,
which sounds most plausible to you?
time.
Coming from a creator God or coming about by accident from nothing? I just want the answer.
Oh wait, I don't believe that. That's a false dichotomy. I don't think that we came from nothing. I think that we came from a causal process.
How can you create something from nothing?
I don't think we came from nothing, moron. I just said that, idiot.
Oh, I'm a moron. I'm the moron.
Yeah, you can't track the point that I said just a second ago. I said, I don't think we came from nothing. And then you say, well, how do we come from nothing?
No, I'm asking. Well, because you believe
I don't think we came from
nothing, correct?
Idiot. You just made the same mistake
You believe in evolution. I guarantee you believe in evolution. You believe in the Big Bang. You believe in the heliocentric theory. Please, tell me more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where did that all come from? How did this start?
That the universe has always
where was
existed.
the beginning?
I don't think that there is a beginning.
Oh my goodness, bro. You sound silly, bro. For real.
Wait, do you want me to give you a proof of that?
You mean indoctrination?
No,
sure, go ahead.
No. I mean like philosophy.
Listen, brother,
if you want, yeah.
The same
so here's what we're going to do, because this is going to be fun.
You're not teaching me anything I don't already know.
Formal logic. Okay. A timeless state is unchanging.
That came from nothing, right? That came from nothing. Don't forget
If
to
a
add that.
timeless state
That came from
is
nothing.
unchanging,
No. That came from nothing.
then
Now you're. Oh, okay.
time
I
cannot
see.
come into existence.
You're one of those individuals. I see.
Therefore, time
Whew.
did not come into existence.
Your ignorance is astounding, my brother.
Oh, wait,
Your
maybe we'll
ignorance
do it
is
like
astounding.
this. If time
Oh my goodness.
cannot come into existence,
From
but
nothing.
time exists,
Existence cannot come from nothing. Say it
then
again.
time always existed. Therefore, time
From
always
nothing
existed.
is what you believe. From nothing. Why aren't you adding the words
Whoa,
from nothing?
calm down there. Stop freaking out. You're
Come
embarrassing
on, buddy.
yourself. It's really not that
Do it.
serious. Which premise do you
I'm not
reject?
embarrassing myself. I
Whoa,
promise
calm
you I'm
down
not.
there. No need to get upset.
You
Just tell
can't
me,
even
do you
answer my
reject
second
premise
question,
one,
brother.
premise two, or
I
premise
promise you I'm
three?
not embarrassing
I've
myself.
answered it 4 times, but because I've slammed you so hard, you have a concussion, which is why you don't remember any of the times I answer.
Yeah.
So
I
you agree
pray-
you have a
I-
concussion?
I'm
Okay,
gonna
cool.
pray for
Wait,
you, brother.
wait.
You
So
need
I was
the Lord Jesus
absolutely
Christ.
right.
You
You are
do,
drowning in the
definitely.
formal logic before you sprint away like the fucking coward you are. Oh, he already sprinted away. How did I know that he was going to do that? I fucking sniped that dude. Holy shit. He was still there while I was saying like, oh, before you sprint away. Oh my god. You can like hear the little quiver in their voice right before they run. It's how you know that they just like shat their pants and that they need to leave in a hurry. Wow, make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all that good stuff. Hey, how's it going?
Yo, what's up?
Oh, you gotta be 18 or older. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. You gotta, if you're in the guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. You can also be a deist. That's fine too. And that will go too. Who do we got next? The very next guest. Hey, how's it going?
Yo, how's it going? What's up, man?
Yeah. How old are you?
I'm 19,
And what religion?
Jewish.
Yeah. What makes you think that God exists?
So, I'm not gonna lie, I can't claim that I know he exists for a fact, but I really just was waiting to ask you, like, do you know God doesn't exist, or do you think that God doesn't exist?
I think that there are successful deductive arguments against God. So, for example, if either God is eternally creating or he's not eternally creating. If God's not
Wait, what do
eternally
you mean?
creating, then he needs to go from not creating to creating, which means that he's in time, which means that he's in creation. So in that case, he didn't create. But then the alternative, he also couldn't have created. If God was always creating, then creation just always exists. So
What if
either
it's-
way,
what if it's
God
outside
doesn't
of
create.
like linguistic understanding of like the human brain, though.
So is it outside of like logical understanding?
I would assume so.
Oh, okay,
You know
then
what I
your
mean?
God, then I know that this God doesn't exist for way easier reasons. Just that this
Why?
God would be able to make a rock that's so heavy that he couldn't lift it, and then he would be able to lift it. So the rock would be both so heavy that he can't lift it and also not so heavy that he can't lift it, which is just a contradiction.
But that makes sense on like a human logic scale, but you would have to, wouldn't that be like assuming you're accepting like all the axioms of like, just like how things work in our world, and assuming he's like outside of all of it, outside time and all of that. Like, I'm not saying he's good or evil or any of that even exists. I'm kind of making the point, like, could you claim as a person, I'm actually genuinely curious, I'm not even gonna like really try to argue for religion, I know it's kind of illogical or whatever, but can you claim to know as a human that we weren't made by some sort of like sentience, if that makes sense? Sorry, I'm a bit technical.
Well, I don't think I'd make that claim. The claim that I'm making is that the ultimate foundation of like metaphysical reality is personal. Like I don't think that there's like this personal ultimate being. That's the thing I'm claiming doesn't exist. It's certainly possible that aliens came over to us and then like formed us, although we just have no evidence of that.
That's true, yeah. So do you think that like consciousness is something we're tapping into, or is it like do you think the universe is like contingent on other things?
No, I think everything's necessary.
So honestly, I'm not even gonna waste your time. I feel like I don't have It's not
That's
gonna be too
okay.
exciting to
Well,
watch. Hey,
hey,
have a good day.
yeah, you
Interested in
too.
watching.
Oh, fuck. God, I cut him too soon. That dude was nice, though. I can always appreciate it when someone's nice. All right, let's go to the very next guest. If you're in that guest request box, you got to be 18 or older. You got to believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists, but, you know, it's not strictly necessary. Check out Strike's Logical PoE. It's good. Okay. Skeptics and Scoundrels, thanks so much for Super Chat. The game, you're practicing some old magic there, Ian. I am. Abracadabra. Hard work, thanks so much for Super Chat. If God's act of creation is contingent and freely chosen, doesn't it put tension on Christian claims of grounding objective moral facts and values? It does. I've heard this argument before. Probably you want to say that God has the freedom of telling you what is good and what isn't good. But then presumably you also want to say that your moral obligations are necessary, not contingent. But then your moral obligations under divine command theory would be contingent on God's free will of saying, do these things instead of those things. So yes, your moral obligations become contingent in divine command theory. Gentleman Viking, thanks so much for the Super Chat. You should ask far beyond if not R-wording every woman he knows is taking away the free will of potential future children that would result. Yeah, I think that's like probably a valid question. Josiah, thanks so much for the $20 super chat. Let's get a big W for Josiah. I appreciate you. Wishing luck to this guy's kid when they ask for help on homework. True. Tyler Ingersoll, thanks so much for the super chat. Also, I saw your DM. I'm sorry, I'm horrible at responding to DMs, but yeah, we'll have to set up the debate between me and your cousin. If God exists, then we're all just characters in God's eternal movie that he's directing, and free will is just an illusion under God's knowledge and will. Yeah, I think that's plausible. Brio, thanks so much for the super chat. Indoctrinated bullshit, the irony. True. All right, let's go to the next guest. Hey, how's it going?
How's it going? Christian, Catholic.
Yep. How old are you?
I got a question. 23.
Yeah, and what religion?
Christian Catholic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you did just say that. Yeah, what makes you think God exists?
Well, I got a question based upon something you told, I think 2 guests ago. You said that we got useless DNA or incorrect DNA. I can't remember which one you said.
Yeah, we have some DNA that literally doesn't do anything. It's like vestigial DNA even. So for example, in our second chromosome, this chromosome used to be 2 chromosomes and it's fused into 1 chromosome. And because of that, we have these like telomeres that are in the center of it. So telomeres are like a part of the chromosome that do things at the end of the chromosome, but this is just one that's in the middle of the chromosome. It's the only chromosome that's like this, and we can track what it does throughout its life cycle. In every single cell, it just gets chopped off and then recycled back into itself. It does nothing. It wastes energy.
Okay. And you said that this proves God, or what was the claim here?
Well, just that it seems to be good evidence that, we didn't come from like a perfect design process, but rather we came from like a chancy process.
Okay, well, according to the Christian paradigm, right, like the Catholic paradigm, this would fall in alignment with like the fallen world, no?
Sure, that makes sense. Although the problem that you're going to run into is that evolution is going to require for mutations to exist for the entirety of history before humans. From the very first life form all the way up and including human beings, mutations existed. So mutations couldn't have come from humans.
I don't know if I understood completely what you said, but you're saying that we have like proof of evolution, or we have evidence actually of evolution.
We just have
prior to
evidence of
humans, right?
mutations before humans. So you're saying things like mutations, the imperfections in our genome came about from the fallen world, the fall of man, but we have this dinosaur bone that has cancer on it. Cancer comes from these mutations. So this dinosaur definitely underwent mutations. So I guess we just have like good reason to think that mutations didn't come from Adam and Eve. If you're off the app, I can't hear you.
Yeah, no, I'm back. What do you call this? Okay, so Mind you, I'm not even trying to debate. I'm just trying to understand your paradigm better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say, when you say you know, right? Because I take knowledge. I'm more of like, when talking about philosophically, I take knowledge to be like strenuous and like infallible. So when I say I know,
Oh,
like for example, dinosaurs. Yeah. So
I don't
like
know
for
why
example,
you'd. I,
something
I
like
feel like you
dinosaurs.
probably can't know anything at that point. Like you can't know anything about the external
Yeah,
world. Like you at that
yeah,
point, you can't
exactly. I
even
would have
know
to.
what the Bible says if you think that knowledge needs to be infallible.
No. So then, how I would grant it is just through faith and revelation, right? So I only know what is revealed.
But how do you know
As far
what's
as like,
revealed?
how do I know what's revealed?
Wouldn't
Because
you need to
I
use
put
your
my faith.
wouldn't you need to use
No,
your
I
fallible
put my faith.
eyes?
No, I would use faith. That's what I mean. I would have to ground it on faith, on the Catholic Church, right?
You know, I know that you can certainly ascribe absolute certainty to your beliefs, but that just means that you're going to be like wrong very often. I also don't know why being absolutely certain that you know a thing actually means that you do. I mean, do you think faith gives justification for beliefs?
In a way, but I also would say that when we're talking about justification, right? Like you can have a lot of evidence for something, but it could also be the case that you're wrong,
Yeah, I
even with
agree.
all the evidence in the world,
Yeah, I
right? So that's what
agree.
I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Like in a way, it does kind of justify it, but at the end of the day, like, yeah, there is that leap of you're not too certain, you know?
I don't think that that's a leap. I think that that's like a good position. You know, if you have evidence, if you don't have proof, if all you have is evidence, then you shouldn't be certain. You should just be as confident as the evidence permits. You should proportion your belief to the strength of the evidence.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that at the end of the day, like when we say knowledge, like for example, I take knowledge to be like, let's say, I stub my toe. I know that I'm in pain, right? So like that's something that like I can be certain about.
Wait,
But
but how
as
do you
far
know
as
that? How can you be certain of that?
uh, well, knowledge through what's it called? Not alliance, through experience. Not man, what's the word? Dude, I'm literally brain farting right now. My bad. Uh, but yeah, I mean, so when you say that God, let me move on to something else. Right?
Yeah.
When you say that God couldn't create, it's either he's eternally creating or he never began to create,
Yeah.
right? Uh, how would you handle that with the situation that we could just say that it's ex nihilo and that creation would be external to him?
Oh, wait, creation's external to him? What about his act of creation? Is the act eternal?
So under Catholicism, we don't believe that God acts. We just believe that, um, like, I don't know how you're using act here, right? Like, I don't believe God acts like today and then tomorrow he does another act, right?
Yeah. No, I'm aware of that, but just that like God, I don't know, God does something. There's something internal to God that gives rise to creation.
Yeah, that'd be like a combination of many things, but creation would still be
You don't want to say it's a
external.
combination of many things because Catholic doctrine commits you to the divine simplicity. So it quite literally can't be many things. It can only be one
No,
thing.
yeah, obviously it would be one thing, but what I'm saying, like, in order for us to understand, right, like we semantically we separate like his will, his knowledge, and like his power, right? So what I'm saying is like when it's a combination, I'm talking about semantically, but yeah, it would ultimately only be him, you know, only be God.
Sure. So do you think whatever it is internal to God that necessitates that creation comes into existence, you know, maybe you want to say that this is God like willing creation necessitates that it comes into existence, or maybe, you know, other people want to say that it's like God's act of creation that necessitates it coming into existence. Whatever that thing is, do you think the thing that necessitates that creation comes into existence was eternal, or do you think that it began to exist?
So far as his power to create, I think that would be eternal. But I think that how do I paint this? It is very hard. It's very hard. But I think that creation did begin to exist, right? So
Do you think that God began to exercise his power at some point?
no, that would be heretical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it doesn't seem like your position is very coherent. That you're saying that God, creation didn't always exist, but God was eternally exercising his power of creation.
Yeah, eternal as so far as before time, right? But I wouldn't say, um, man, that's really hard because it's very hard
Just
to
I take that to
understand.
mean something like just without beginning. Like it exists, but it exists without beginning and it exists without end. So God exercising his creative power exists without beginning, which means that creation would just exist without beginning. That there's never a state where God exists and creation doesn't exist, that every state of affairs includes both God and creation. So then both of them are eternal.
What's the okay? So I need to study more upon this argument because I heard you what do you call this? Mention this a couple times. But what is the name of this argument? Is there a name for it,
It's
or
called
is
the
it completely
Proclus
wrong?
dilemma. If you want a really good, if you want the best form of it comes from Ryan Mullins. He has a book called The End of the Timeless God. He's a Christian theologian, but he's Protestant. The End of the Timeless God. You could probably find that book on like Z Library or even on like document.pub. There's a lot of places where you could pirate this book, but it's a good book.
Okay. I got you. All right. Well, I gotta go.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for coming on. I appreciate you. Yep. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen sharing with your friends to know the good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists. Hey, how's it going?
Hello.
Yeah.
How are you doing today?
Doing well. How old are you?
34.
Yep. And what religion?
Christian.
Yeah. What makes you think that God exists?
Personal revelation.
Okay. Do you think that's the only
interested-
way to know that God exists is personal revelation?
Not necessarily. I just think it's the strongest.
Okay. Do you think that you could like demonstrate that personal revelation happened to you? Like, why should I trust your personal revelation claims
True.
over like the Hindu personal revelation claims?
I don't think personal revelation claims are meant to be evangelical. I'm happy to share my story, but the evangelical nature of personal revelation claims, it's more intrinsic, and you're meant to actually behave in a way that represents what you believe, and the oddities of your behavior portray like better ways to be, and that's the evangelical nature of the personal revelation claim. It's like a call to action.
Okay, but you could say this about like tons and tons of religious claims. Like, for example, you could take examples of people from Hinduism who have experiences with, you know, they're one, and that leads to them living like a better life because of that. Why should I trust you over them?
I don't know that you need to. God isn't real, right? I think that's the bare bones claim, not Christian God necessarily.
Okay. Well, why would I think that this isn't just like a byproduct of like human psychology if it's happening in two different religions where one of them says explicitly that the other one is false?
I think, especially if you bring in enculturation and education into that, it's very difficult to say that the same species just isn't looking at the same thing from different directions. I think that's very difficult to parse. One of my first for fun ideas was that if you take the idea that you die and go to hell and just believe that you also get reincarnated, so if you don't live a good life or by whatever metric get to go to quote unquote heaven, you're reinstantiated in a different existence, then just like if you believe that this existence is hell, then suddenly the two ideologies handshake each other. I just feel like it's fun to kind of paint pictures and shake hands between different religions.
I agree that might be fun, but why would it be true?
Okay. The story that I just painted is not necessarily true. I'm actually
Do you have like evidence maybe that God exists?
Allow me a moment.
Yeah.
At this point, evidence I would drift towards natural revelation as a Christian apologist.
Okay. And what do you mean by that?
People usually bring up like an eyeball or something, some complexity that I don't know that I wholeheartedly interact with that idea. But there are moments where I have, or perhaps as a human, we might have thoughts or feelings or intimations that don't make a certain amount of sense, that just kind of materialize in our inner being, like appear in our psyche. And when we attend to the thumbs up version instead of the thumbs down, we move towards an unknowable and brighter future.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Conscience.
Okay. I don't know. Is there like a point?
You're asking for evidence, and I think that's a very difficult lens to put forth an argument for how God is real, which is why
Isn't that the
we're
only
sitting here.
lens, right? Isn't that what the argument's meant to do, is give evidence or some sort of reason to believe?
I guess I'm biased towards sentimental ideas of interactions with other humans, uplifting myself, I guess technically included when I'm helping myself, but
Well, the problem is that I think that you could have all of those things, right? You could have all those meaningful connections and you could just be wrong. You know, it happens all the time.
Okay.
There are people that form like genuinely good, meaningful friendships over, I don't know, like, I bet they were like, you know, really good friends during
Okay.
like the crusade. You know, I'm sure they were like lifelong, wholesome friendships, you know, before they went and did like evil, horrible shit. Like,
Yeah.
I just don't think that the fact that you're able to find connection with other people means that the thing that you're defending is true.
Okay, so the sentiment needs to be grounded in some sort of overarching idea of like what is correct to
It just
have been
doesn't
done.
seem to get you to the place that we're trying to get to, which is like some reason to think that God exists. Like, I can grant that you do have like meaningful connections with a lot of the people at your church. That's like definitely true. I just don't know why it would follow from that the
I was
things that you believe
incidentally-
are actually true.
I was talking more about folks that are not necessarily in an alignment with my belief, but I hear what you're saying and it doesn't really contest the point. Here's a different idea, if you'll allow me the
Yeah.
line of logic. I believe that God is all that is and ought to be. And, well, our thoughts there first, if that's critiquable.
I don't know what it means to say that something like, I don't know what it means to say of a being that a being ought to be. Like, I take ought as to mean like you have like some total reason to bring about like a certain state of affairs, or like, I think that ought operates at the level of the agent. I don't think that it makes sense to talk about like a being ought existing in a way that's disconnected from like an agent. Like, for example, I think that it makes sense to say that you ought go to your classes relative to an agent who's set like graduating from college as one of their classes, or as like one of their goals. I don't know what it means to say that God ought to be.
From the human perspective, trying to understand the deity, all that is and ought to be in a future state, like the perspective swing and potential swing of all the different things that could be, whatever is iteratively best and able to be best in that moment. And then from our perspective, when we move from state to state, the ought is more from our perspective than from God's perspective, because it ought to be the case in the next state.
Okay, so are you saying that things, it would seem an implication of this is that things are moving towards the good?
I should believe so.
I guess that just seems unlikely.
Okay.
So it feels like the world is like seriously destabilizing.
Okay. It's tough to disagree, especially with the present administration.
Yeah.
To get too political. I think the world has always been bad. It's pretty easy to just kind of slap a sticker of fallen world on it. I don't think that's necessarily holding any water, especially to argue for why God is real as opposed to isn't. I think good is pretty difficult to put in a box.
Are you familiar with the view called axiarchism? It's like a naturalist view, but it just holds that like the universe, the only thing that exists is the universe, and then there's like some fundamental disposition towards goodness. How would you differentiate your position from that position?
You're saying that I don't necessarily need God to espouse what I'm saying?
It just seems like there's a naturalistic version that does the same thing as what you're saying.
This, unfortunately, is where I go back to the personal revelation piece, where I've had an intimate interaction with, like, crying out and receiving a certain amount of, I guess I would say it as like when you solve a math problem, especially algebra plus, you're like, you have the starting point and you have the ending point, and it's your job to kind of get to the necessary conclusion. It's more like the path than it is the answer. And the personal revelation piece is, I'm personally aware of the other side of the equal sign for me.
Okay. Well, I don't really know how to engage with your personal revelation. So is there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Unlucky. I'll think more on this. Can I get the name?
The name of what? If you're off the app, I can't hear you.
Apologies. The natural axiom.
Oh, yeah. It's called axiarchism.
Axiarchism?
Yeah. AXIARCHISM.
Axiarchism. Okay, thank you. I'll become more aware, and I'll continue tuning in and chipper in when.
Yeah. And to be clear, I'm not like I'm not the axiarchism like knower or whatever, but I just know that it's like a paradigm that exists out there, and I think on a lot of issues, it's hard to understand why one would pick theism over axiarchism, because axiarchism is like technically, it technically has fewer posits to it, right? Like so for theism, like you need to hold that supernatural things and natural things exist, and then like the world is disposed towards goodness. But then axiarchists just say, well, the world is disposed towards goodness, and there's only the natural stuff.
Understood.
Yeah.
I'll say thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, thanks so much for coming on up. Appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Yep, you too. Make sure you're double tapping on that screen, sharing it with your friends, doing all the good stuff. If you're in that guest request box, make sure that you're 18 or older. Make sure that you believe in the God of the Bible, the Torah, or the Quran. I also ask that you have some sort of reason to think that God exists. And with that, we will go to the very next guest. Or maybe we won't. Who knows? Oh, yeah. What's up, Jeff? Jeff, are you there? I can't hear you. Jeff. That's so sad. Hey, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, how old are you?
I'm 21.
Yeah. What religion?
I'm Christian.
Yeah, what makes you think that God exists?
I have empirical, scientifical, mathematically proven. I have mathematical proven equations.
Yeah, give me your.
That also have empirical evidence. Also.
Yeah, give me your empirical, mathematical, scientifical equations that have empirical evidence.
All right, so I have a premise to premises too.
Okay.
But it's a lot. It's a lot of premises. I have a picture. Can you go on my account and look at the premises on my account?
Can you just like read them off or something? We can just put the notepad up.
I have a lot. It's a lot of premises.
Okay, this feels like trolling.
No, I'm not trolling. I promise. I'm serious.
Also, is this Matthew Davis?
No.
Well, if you run into Matthew Davis, you should tell him that it's like really funny that he posted the debate over and over again where he gets stomped. Oh, it is Matthew Davis.
Go look at the video on my account.
Yeah, the one where you get stomped, or
I explained the empirical evidence. Well, I mean, I can actually prove the universe began to exist in that video. So if you're scared, I mean, it's okay. It's all empirical evidence.
Why would you lie when I asked if you were Matthew?
I'm just stating my position.
Maybe could you like state the position again? Could you just like state the evidence?
Okay, so the universe began. We know this because when we mathematically trace the expansion backward, everything converges to an extremely hot dense state.
But why would I think that there's nothing before that?
Let me explain. So we know that the universe is expanding on average because of Hubble's law and the CMB cosmic microwave background.
Ooh,
So the
I'm afraid that
CMB is
doesn't really follow.
So the cosmic microwave background is the afterglow of the Big Bang.
No, I'm
and
aware
it's
of what
direct
I'm
fossil
aware of what
evidence.
all that stuff is. I'm saying it doesn't follow.
It's direct fossil evidence. All this is empirically verified.
No, I agree. It just doesn't follow that the universe is on average expanding across the entire course of its history. For example, if it always existed,
So
it
I'm
would
saying
be
that space itself is
mistaken.
expanding.
Whoa, let's just calm down
Space
there.
began from a hot dense state.
Well,
Galaxies
what's
are
the
moving
argument
apart.
for that?
This is redshift.
Okay,
Hubble's
he's
law.
just pivoting all over the damn
Cosmic
place.
microwave background.
This guy's all over the fucking
The Big Bang
place.
theory.
This is what happens
The
after a
expansion.
single loss to Ian and Dr. Blitz, by the way. It
So now that
completely
we know the
rewires
universe
your
is expanding
brain
on average,
and leaves you like a lobotomite.
I have a video. I explain it all very
Do you want to explain it here? Or do you want to engage with the point?
I explain my whole entire position. It's going to take 15 minutes for me to do that.
So the
Right
problem
here.
is that
You know how
if the
long-
universe
do you
has
know how long
always
that would
existed,
take?
whoa, just calm down there.
You know how
There's
long
no
that
need
would
for
take?
you to be getting this
I
upset.
have a whole video.
Whoa, there's seriously no
I mean,
reason
my-
for you to be crashing the fuck out. Just calm down. It's not that
No,
serious.
it would take about 24 minutes. I have a
Okay.
whole video. It's 24 minutes
If
long.
you guys want to watch me debate Matthew Davis, that's like one of my newer videos. If you're like dying to watch the Ian and Dr. Blitz versus Matthew Davis debate for like 2 hours, it's the one titled "The Guest is Right and Dr. Blitz is Wrong" twice. Hey, how's it going?
Hello. Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, how old are you?
28?
And what religion?
Christian?
Yeah. What makes you think God exists?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you believe your mom loves you?
Yeah.
Right. So how would I know your mom loves you?
How would
I have
you
to just
know that
trust-
my mom
Right.
loves you?
I have
So
to
let's
just
get
trust
clear on
your-
what we mean
I
by
have to trust
knowledge.
your word, right?
Wait, so let's get clear what we mean by knowledge.
No, but listen to
So,
what I'm
wait,
saying.
I'm
How
trying
would
to
I
get.
know
Wait, I'm
this
sorry. I'm
except
trying to
to trust
clarify your
your word?
confusion because it's clear that you're about to say something that's very confused about the nature of knowledge. It
No.
seems like you're presupposing that knowledge needs to be absolutely certain when that's just not true. All it needs to be is justified. The reason how you could arrive at a justification for thinking that my mom loves me is by observing the way
Yeah, but
that
I
my
wouldn't
mom
know your mom.
interacts with me.
Yeah, but I wouldn't experience that.
I know
That's
you
not
wouldn't
tan-
experience
the-
it,
your
but you could
mom's
still
love for you is not
you could
tangible.
still view the way that she acts towards me, the things that she
Yeah, but I
does
would
for
never
me,
meet her.
and then you could come to the conclusion that the best explanation for this, or that a reasonable explanation for this, is the fact that she loves me. You don't need absolute certainty in order to have knowledge. That's my point.
But you believe that she does.
Yeah, I believe that she does, and I think I have good evidence for that belief too.
Great. So your belief is you have faith that that's true.
No, that's not faith. That's evidence. That's the difference between you and I, is that my beliefs have evidence, yours only have faith.
And your evidence is just your word against mine.
No, my evidence is the things that my mom does for me, the way that she goes out of her way to do all these things for me. The simplest explanation for all of it is just that she loves me.
Yeah, but you have to understand that that same thing that the other guy was saying about his own personal experience is his evidence. It's his personal experience, just like you're talking about your personal
Wait,
experience with your mom.
am I able to observe this guy's personal experience from the outside? Am I able to
I'm sure
inference the best
if you were present and
explanation
you went to church
something?
with him and they prayed and they worshipped, you would probably feel the presence of God. Isn't that the same thing you're arguing about me being
Yeah,
around
I
you,
think
your mom showing you up?
if I felt the presence of God right now, then certainly I'd become a believer in God.
For
It's
sure.
kinda
Do you ever go
strange
to
that he
church?
doesn't.
Do you ever
go to the-
surround yourself?
Wait, sorry,
with,
do you
with
ever sacrifice a goat to Zeus?
No.
Oh,
But
why
I'm
not?
saying, I'm
How do you
talking
know
to you
that
right
Zeus isn't
now.
out there
I'm
waiting
talking
for
to you right now.
You know,
about
you'd feel the
if
presence
you,
of Zeus
how
if only
would
you
you know if you
sacrificed a
don't even
goat.
go and put yourself in the
How would you
environment
know
around
if you
people?
never sacrificed a goat to Zeus? You know, Zeus is
Because
waiting for you. Zeus wants to
because
throw
that's
lightning bolts at
that's a
people.
coherent argument because I'm asking you, you're saying, hey, if I went around and I experienced God's love or I experienced the presence of God, maybe I'll become a believer. But you're not even putting yourself in the environments where you would experience those things.
Yeah, and if you felt the presence of Zeus, would you become a believer in Zeus?
Why? What's your argument for Zeus, for the Roman gods?
Whoa, wait, you aren't even trying to find Zeus. How can you say that you're open to the possibility of a Zeus when you're not even putting yourself out there? You've sacrificed 0 goats to Zeus.
Yeah, bro. I really feel like you have kind of like this pretentious attitude,
Okay.
and it just got you. It's so
Did the
obvious
argument
when
go
you talk
bad? You're
about
gonna pivot
stuff.
to crying now? Is that right?
No, I asked you an honest question about your beliefs is having faith, right? If you believe that your mom loves you,
No, no, no,
right?
no. A belief is just that you think it's true. You can think
Well, it
something's
must be
true and
true.
also know it. In fact, in order to know anything, you would need to believe that that thing is true. Like to know that 2 + 2 is 4, you would need to think that 2 + 2 is 4. You
So,
can't
so what
know
do you
that 2
believe?
+ 2 is 4 if you
Do you
don't
believe in
think
the
that 2 + 2 is
universe?
4.
You believe in the universe is what guides you, or what?
What guides me? I think logic is what guides me.
Okay, so you're not like a new age manifester that that's
No.
good. See, that's good. That means that you're at least halfway through to maybe getting to the point where you might actually believe in something.
Do you think that Yahweh, the Stone Age deity, the one that sacrificed himself to himself to save us from himself after, the woman made from the rib was coerced by the talking snake to eat from the magic tree? Is that where you get your guidance from?
I just believe in Jesus, man.
Yeah,
I mean,
but do
there's
you believe in
historical
like all that
context
stuff?
for believing in Jesus, and you can even see it in history books. I mean, they have records of the veil being torn in the temple when Jesus was sacrificed, which opened up the
Definitely
door
not.
to everybody having a relationship with God.
Yeah, for sure not.
Look into it. It's Israeli, bro. You can look into their history.
Yeah, wait, what's the specific artifact you want me to look into?
I'll have to go look it up, but I know for a
Okay.
fact it exists.
Sure,
I mean,
yeah. You left your source in your other
look at the Shroud of Turin.
pants.
They just came out and they proved that blood was ancient and that
There's
was
no blood on
Jesus'
the Shroud of
blood.
Turin. What's on the Shroud
Yeah,
of
there
Turin is
is.
red ochre. You could look that up.
Okay, well, again, we're just playing my beliefs against your
Wait, do you want me
beliefs,
to?
right?
Okay, here's what I'll do. Here can be the symmetry breakers that I'll give you sources for the claim that I just made. Another additional interesting thing is that when we radiometrically date the Shroud of Turin, it comes back from the 1300s.
Okay. Are you the historian on that, or you found this?
We have studies of it.
Yeah, but the guys who actually, went in and actually looked into the blood and they studied that blood, it lines up with that timeline.
There is no blood on it. It's red ochre. I'm about to set you the study for that.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, okay. It's titled
Can I ask an honest question?
yeah. So the specific work is titled Judgment Day for the Shroud of Turin. That's going to be a citation that it is indeed red ochre. Okay, wait. Oh, sorry. And then the other one from the same guy, it's titled. This one's just a study. The Shroud of Turin, blood or artist's pigment finds that it's red ochre.
Okay, let me ask you this. When did you ever believe in God, or was this just kind of something you never believed in God?
Wait, can we just get like some acknowledgement that the Shroud of Turin got turned into like the Rag of Turin just now?
No. I'm
Do you
asking
want
you
to
on a
like
question.
engage with the sources? Like if what I just said is true, would that maybe make you rethink some of your beliefs?
No, because I don't believe you.
Okay, sure.
It's just like you don't believe me, I don't believe you,
Wait, but I provided you sources. You haven't provided me anything.
Share your screen.
Okay, I could do that. One sec. Let me pull it on up. Let me see if I can't find a study or like a link to the study.
I thought you were just reading one.
Yeah, I'm reading like the abstract. Yeah, one sec. Let me find the study. Where is it? Ochre. Okay. He gives like a summary on his website. Okay, according to Dr. Walter McCrone and his colleagues, the 3x14 cloth depicting Christ's crucified body is an inspired painting produced by medieval artist. Just before its first appearance in recorded history in 1356, the paint sepia image is made up of billions submicrometer pigment particles, red ochre and vermilion, in a collagen tempera medium. The pigments, red ochre and vermilion with collagen tempera medium, was common paint composition during the 14th century, before which no one had ever heard of the shroud. So it's red ochre.
I'm still not convinced.
Okay. I guess maybe it's like a head posture, right? Maybe your head is hardened to the truth.
I don't know. When we all get to heaven, we can ask God.
Well, I mean, if we all get to heaven, then like clearly I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to be like intellectually honest, is that I can set clear conditions as to what would make me think that I'm wrong.
I'm really curious to know about your past. Like, I'm actually curious to know, like, was there ever a point where you believed in God, or was there something that happened in your life or your faith that?
Yeah, I used to believe in God, and then I just became convinced that God didn't exist.
Yeah.
I just thought about it harder. I applied some logical reasoning practice.
It's interesting. It makes me think about C.S. Lewis, because he kind of had the opposite, where he was atheist and then he believed in God through his works. I don't know. I'm not saying that you can't ever come back. You always can.
Well,
but
so here's the difference between me and C.S. Lewis is that C.S. Lewis got dragged kicking and screaming into a belief in God, is the way that he describes it. Whereas every single new fact that I uncover seems to point away from God. Facts about cosmology seem to point away from God. Facts about like human biology seem to point away from God. Facts about like the level of suffering in the world, about like evolution, those all seem to point away from God. It just seems like there's so many things that don't seem consistent with God.
It's interesting too, because like I feel like a lot of people who have faith, it's usually about their own personal experience. Like they that's why I know that guy, the guy that was talking before was like, well, I have my personal experience. You're like, well, how do you share that, right? I think it just depends. Like I've had very intense supernatural experiences with God, and obviously like I could share that, but would it convince you? No, because you haven't had it, right? But
then why wouldn't God just give one to everyone?
Well, it's about seeking it out, like I really believe that you kind of have to seek it out, and it's like any relationship, right? Like you have to make time for it and want to connect with the Lord compared to somebody.
A lot of people seek their entire lives and they never find. How would you explain that?
I'll say that's a very interesting point of view, because I did have my friend's grandfather who had kind of that experience where he never really he never had a spiritual experience, but his wife did. And so his wife was like a really big believer, but he never quite believed. And it almost feels very subjective, but the Bible talks about many are called, few are chosen, right? And I do believe that, even though God gives a lot of people experiences and some don't ever get to experience, it just comes down to having it's about your heart. Right? Like if in your heart you really believe in God, that's why the Bible talks about, your heart is what's going to be the reason you get into heaven, right? The Lord's going to look at your heart. And I even believe like even people who aren't Christian.
Wait, sorry, before we go into more lore, do you have any reason to think that God exists? Otherwise, I'm probably just going to move to the next guest.
I mean, honestly, man, like I said, just my experience, what I've read, if you read the Bible, you can connect with that. And I think if you go to church, you surround yourself with other believers and you worship, even just listening to worship music, I connect with God, so it is always going to be a personal thing, but, I think you can always come back, there's always a place.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on up. Appreciate you. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Hey, how's it going?
Can you hear me?
Yeah. How old are you?
Can't see. Hold on. Okay, there we go. I'm 41.
Yeah, and what religion?
Christian.
Yeah, what makes you think that God exists?
Well, I was an atheist for a long time, and I got saved, and I just came to a point where I felt like it was more faith to continue believing atheism than to admit that there's order, that there's creation, that there's teleology, that there's purpose, that there's truth, that there's knowledge,
You
and
can't be serious. You think atheists
100%.
don't think that truth exists?
Well, it depends. I mean, so are you a nominalist? Are you a physicalist?
No, I'm not a nominalist. I'm a Platonist.
Okay, so where does so
Category.
outside the
That's a
physical?
category error. Asking
So
where's a spatial question? Platonic things don't exist within a spatial realm. It's a category error.
so can you give an ontology for them?
And by given ontology, what do you mean?
Like a source
A
of being, a
source?
state
No,
of
they're
being.
necessary. They don't come from anywhere. They would just be necessary.
Well, then you believe that's just like God and angels. You
Sure. Wait.
believe in
Okay.
things
So
like
to be
God and
clear, you
angels.
failed to give the reductio to Platonism before we move off of this, right? You're saying, well, your worldview is kind of like my worldview. Okay. So you don't have any
Yeah.
problem with like necessary things.
Well, your necessary things are outside of the physical realm.
I agree.
So I'm trying to, yeah. So you believe in truth and knowledge and math and time and all these metaphysical concepts,
Of
but you
course.
can't get you can't give an ontology or an epistemology for them,
Wait,
and
what's the
yet you're
argument that I can't give an ontology? Well, first of all, I don't even know what given ontology means. I'm not even sure what that's claiming.
you ground them, ground
Ground
them,
them. Okay. Yeah.
ground
Which things
truth,
would you
ground
like?
knowledge, ground the
Yeah.
laws of logic,
Yeah. Truth is going
ground
to be grounded
transcendental
in
things.
being. Logic is going to be grounded in the structure of reality. Which more things do you want grounded?
Okay, so these are not, you're just, those are just words
Wait,
that you're
sorry, I'm
coming up
sorry.
with.
I don't know if you're aware of this,
There's
but
no,
discussions involve words. Like, did you want me to draw you like a picture? Like, what form would you like the
yeah,
answer in, if not in
yeah,
words?
yeah, draw truth.
You want me to draw truth? Do you think that that's a good
Draw,
faith question? Has
draw
the dialogue
time.
tree like imploded on itself so severely that
Well,
all you can
well,
do is say, well, give me a grounding for all these things? No, don't give it in words. Do you have like a real
yeah. Okay,
argument?
well, so, but what's your argument? Because then I could just say
Wait,
God
I'm
is
so sorry.
real.
Wait,
I could
what's
just,
God?
hold on,
Wait, sorry, what's God grounded in?
himself. He's the creator.
You think a thing could be grounded in itself?
Yeah, if he's the creator of all
Okay, then
things,
logic
yes.
is grounded in logic, and truth is grounded in truth, and reality is
Right.
grounded in reality. And yeah, okay, sure. Then I'll just give a circular. I'll
But
just give
that's
a
what you're
circular
saying.
grounding
But
for everything.
that's
That's
what your
fine.
argument is. That's what your
Yeah, well,
argument
yeah,
is.
but you're fine with that. It seems.
Yeah, I'd say God, and you
Sure,
just
brutal.
say
Okay,
you're just reductio.
sure.
You're circular.
Damn. Well, but you're circular too. You just said that God's grounded in God.
Well, we're on even terms,
Sure. Okay, cool. Then your argument failed.
and so did yours.
Well, I didn't make an argument. You were trying to critique
You made
atheism.
the exact point that I made.
You were trying to critique atheism
Ex-
by asking how I ground these things. I give an equivalent grounding to
and
you. And
you
then,
don't
we
have
end up and the transcendental argument for God kind of fell apart. So we would have to look at
no.
different evidence.
It didn't fall apart
It
because you're
did.
making
Oh,
the same
brutal.
argument as me.
No, I'm not arguing that God doesn't exist because, he's grounded in himself or he's like ungrounded or something. I think that's fine. You just have to let the atheist say the same.
No, it's fine. I'm establishing the fact that we're on even ground. That's fine.
Okay.
I mean, it's fair for you to say that my argument is subjective or my it's experience based and that it's ad hoc. That's fine. You can say that, but I can say the same thing about yours. That's all
Well,
I'm
wait,
saying.
how about I go ahead and present to you some evidence that God doesn't exist?
Sure.
Yeah, do you think God's act of creation is eternal?
I don't know, but I would assume so.
Yeah, then creation is eternal, so God never created.
What, his act of creation is
Yeah.
eternal?
His act of creation is eternal. His
Well,
act of
I
creation
mean,
necessitates
him
creation, therefore
being
creation's
him.
eternal.
Well, what do you mean his act of creation? Are you talking
Yeah.
about this
Just like his
this form of
exercising of his creative power that necessitates creation come into existence.
Well,
God has powers, he
I would say
exercises those
God.
powers, so that's his act of creation is when he exercises
say
powers that
God
lead to
is
creation.
God is outside of time, space, and matter.
That's
Because in
great,
the
bud.
beginning, he created those things.
That's great, bud.
So
Do you think his
that's his
active creation is
ontology.
eternal?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, either it is or it isn't. So let's explore both routes. We kind of explored why it can't be eternal, because then that means that he never actually creates, but it also can't not be eternal, because then he goes from not exercising his creative powers, and then he begins to exercise his creative powers. You know, he begins to create. That's a change when you go from not exercising your power to do something to exercising your power to do something.
Right. To be fair,
So he
I
would be in
don't
time.
grant you that you have all knowledge, but I do
I don't
believe that God has
claim
all
to have.
knowledge.
I don't claim to have all knowledge.
Okay, so if you can't explain something about God, does that make him not real?
A contradiction makes God not real.
How? How so?
How do contradictions make things not real? Dash, the guy who
Yes.
was asking me to ground the laws of logic earlier. The guy who was asking me to ground the laws of logic wants me to explain to
No.
him why contradictions make things false.
Nope. That's your worldview. Your worldview
You
collapsed.
reject we got a dialetheist over here, it seems.
Your worldview collapsed. Mine didn't, because
Are you
I
sure?
ground
I think you're a bit
truth and the laws of
confused.
logic in God.
Wait, sorry, what was the contradiction on my view? I can specify
So
the
you-
contradiction in your view. You can't specify the
you-
contradiction in mine.
You're saying it is because it is.
No,
That's
I'm not.
circular.
That's what you said. You literally said that.
No,
I asked you
grounded
what's
in
God grounded in, and you said God's grounded in
Yes.
himself. You literally
Yes.
said it is because it is.
No. I said truth, the laws of logic, transcendental categories are grounded in God, which is outside of them. You said they are grounded
and what
in
is
themselves.
what's God grounded in?
God is grounded in himself. He is the ground
Yeah,
being
exactly.
of
So
the
God just
universe.
is because he is. Yeah, exactly.
So I
Wait,
have a
and by the way,
grounding.
wait, you conceded earlier that we're on equal footing here. You can't now, are you contradicting yourself about that too? You now have two contradictions in your view?
No,
You
I
lost
said
on the time argument, and
hold
now
on,
you
hold on,
want to
hold
go
on.
back for a loss on this one too?
Are we gonna have a talk? I'm talking
Sure.
about grounding of transcendental categories. We're on
Yeah.
even footing. Grounding of God being the grounding of all being in existence itself is where my argument
Oh, you don't want to say that
overcomes
God
yours.
grounds all of existence, because, then that means that he's outside of existence. Grounding is considered to be, as you're pointing out, an an anti-symmetric relation, that if one thing is the ground of the other, then it can't be vice versa.
No,
So
see,
if A
I
grounds
don't, I
B, then
don't,
B does not
I
ground
don't
A.
grant you. See, what you're doing is you're confining God to your 3-pound brain, and I can't do that in my brain, and you can't do that in your brain
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
he's
Let me use my
outside
real
of our
brain then.
brains.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that contradictions are false?
In the sense of human knowledge, God gives us the laws of logic. So yes, the law of non-contradiction exists with human knowledge within this version of reality.
If
But
we derive
just
the
for example,
contradiction in God, would that disprove him?
no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
That's so funny. This guy's the goat, dude.
Because
God. Well, I grant God the power to not get refuted.
Yeah,
Bro, this is, by
God-
the way, this is what you have to believe to be a Christian. You have to believe that God, I don't know, does God have the power to make a rock that's so heavy that he can't lift it?
Yeah, I mean, God is not bound to our laws
Does
of
he have
logic.
the power to make a rock that's so heavy that he can't lift it?
He created the laws of logic.
Literal gibberish. Does he have the power to make a rock that's so heavy that he can't lift it?
God is outside of that, so I don't know.
He's outside does God have the power to make a rock that's so heavy that he can't lift it?
Within this version of reality where the laws of logic exist, I would say no. But outside,
not all
I
powerful.
can't speak because he's well, God. There's things that God can't do.
Oh, then he's not all powerful. There you go.
I didn't say he was all powerful.
Oh, then your God's a cuck. We put your God in the cuck chair.
See now you're just going ad hominem. We're trying to have
When
a
you say,
discussion.
I guess, what does God have the power to do?
When did I say God was all powerful?
I just want to know, what does God have the power to do?
Can
Do
you
want me to find
show
it?
me in the scripture where it says God
yeah,
is
it
all
says
powerful?
that all things are possible through God.
All things are possible, but that doesn't mean that he's going to do all things.
No,
God
but I'm
cannot
just
be
asking,
tempted.
does God have
God
the
cannot-
power? I didn't ask,
God
will
cannot lie.
God make a rock that's so heavy that he can't lift it? I'm asking, can he?
I don't know, but there are things that God won't do. He won't lie. He won't be tempted. So
Okay.
I don't know the extent of that. But what I'm saying is this all the omnis, the deconstructionists, you guys love to use God is all powerful. all knowing, all loving. And a lot of that, when you take it in context in the scripture, is it doesn't say that. It does not. The omnis are not in the scripture. So
how much power do you, well, first of all, yeah, they are. Which powers do you think he has?
well, I do believe he's all knowing. I believe he knows the future from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
So yeah,
But
I do believe
which
that.
powers does he have?
Well, if he cannot be tempted and he cannot lie, then there are limits to his power.
What grounds those limits on God's powers?
I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't have to know. I don't have
sure,
to know
but
everything.
you want the atheist to know what grounds logic and truth and reality, but you don't have to know what grounds the limits on God's powers.
Yes, because where did those things come from? Give an account for them.
Wait, sorry, but
I'm
you can't
giving
give
an
an account for
account.
God.
I am because he's the ground of being.
Okay, so
I
then you have
can't
a
give an
double
account for
standard.
God. No, because I'm giving an account for the laws of logic. I'm asking you about a specific
you're not.
category, which is the laws of logic. I'm asking you
How
where the
does
laws of
God
logic
ground
are
the laws
grounded.
of logic?
Because where did they come from?
Well, I'm asking you, how does he? Like, through what process does God do that?
God solves the chicken and the egg problem. Do you understand that?
I want to
like
know
which the
through what
chicken and the
mechanism
egg and the
does God
chicken and the
ground
egg
the
and the
laws
chicken
of
and the egg,
logic?
and you get back
Does he
to
like
an
will them
uncreated.
into existence? Are they abstractions of certain features of him?
No, he formulated them just like he formulated math and gravity and time and matter and energy states and entropy and chemistry.
Could God have formulated it differently?
I would assume so.
Okay, so God could have formulated it such that God isn't God?
See, now you're going to go back to the grounding issue and you're going to say
Brutal.
no, because he is the ground of all being.
Brutal.
So that's another
brutal.
reason. That's another reason why the omnis don't hold up, because I would say no.
Does God have being?
Your philosophical questions don't disprove God.
Like, yeah, they do.
Oh, can God
Contradictions
create
disprove God. Sorry.
Why? How so not?
Contradictions
the
are
Trinity,
false.
The Trinity would be
Strictly
a contradiction.
false. I agree.
The Trinity would be a contradiction within the laws of logic, but God is outside of the laws of logic.
Yeah, so he's
illogical. Outside of the laws of logic.
You believe in an illogical thing?
No, it's not illogical. It means that within this reality, you have the laws of logic. God is not bound by gravity. You're bound by gravity.
Well,
if you
gravity
jump,
isn't a law of
come back
logic.
down.
Wait, sorry.
It's a law, though.
Sorry, can you name two
Gravity is a
laws of
law.
logic?
The law of non-contradiction, the law of excluded middle.
Okay, sure.
So
you clearly know what
law of
like laws of
identity.
logic are. So I'm not sure why you would be bringing up gravity. Gravity is obviously not a law of logic. It's a law of physics.
It's a law of physics. It's another law in the universe. And laws point to a lawgiver. We have no other source where we have all these laws and no lawgiver. So that's a burden on you. As
for
an
example,
atheist.
all these things
where did
could
these
be
laws come from?
Well, I think that these are an abstraction of the structure of reality.
That's just a bunch of words.
You didn't like the answer. You were hoping that I wouldn't have one. You were hoping that I would short circuit maybe some of the other atheists that you've talked to, and you're really pouty that I didn't.
You didn't give a grounding for
I
them.
did. They're abstractions of the structure of reality.
Okay, well, who formulated the structure of reality?
It's not a who question. The structure of reality is necessary. Even in a world where nothing exists, in order for nothing to have a determinate identity, you would still need to have things like identity. You would need to have nothing as opposed to something, which means that there would still be an underlying structure, even in a world where there's nothing. So something is necessary. The structure of being is necessary. So that's the underlying structure that logic maps onto. Nope. It's necessarily existent. And the reason we can demonstrate that it's necessarily existent, because even in a world where there was nothing, it would still need to exist in order for there to be determinate nothing in the first place. It's this underlying structure that you can't strip away no matter how hard you try. Because in order to strip it away into some determinate state, you would still need to presuppose it in order to make that state determinate in the first place. In order to have the nothing in the first place as opposed to the something, you would still need to be stripping away this underlying structure, but you can't do that because this underlying structure is necessary in order to have things like determinate identity in the first place. And the laws of logic are just abstractions of this structure.
You're begging the question. You're just using a bunch of
Holy
words
shit, dude.
to say that everything is what it is, and that gives no
I didn't
ground.
say that. That's not what I said.
You still have a chicken and egg
That's
problem.
not what I said.
Created them?
Wait, can you summarize back to me what I said, or were you not listening?
I mean, you used a lot of words, dude. Yeah. What did you
Devastating,
what
even.
what do you use to create the laws of logic or
Create the
mathematics?
laws of logic? I don't think that the laws of
Yes.
logic are brought into existence. I think they're abstractions of the structure of reality.
Okay, but what I'm saying is that you are putting your faith that order and sequence and information could arise out of order, non-order, non-sequence, and non-information, and you have no account.
Order,
You have no
sequence.
way.
Well, this seems to be a bit confused, even like equivocating. By
Yeah,
information, what do you mean?
information like a ordered sequence that shows towardness.
Okay.
A B C D A B C D A plus
So, for
B
example, would you
equals
consider like the
AB.
rings of a tree to be information?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's an example of information that doesn't come from like a mind.
No, it comes from a universe that allowed ordered seasons to show the rings at a intervals that are regular and progressive.
Maybe what accounts for the underlying order is the geometry of space-time.
Right. Again, you're begging the question.
How is
You're
that
just
begging
saying
the
another word
question?
and
Wait,
moving the
wait, I'm so
goalposts to
sorry.
say
Wait,
that,
so
okay,
here's
now
here's
it's
what just
geometry.
happened, because I think it's important to point out the scumbag tactics as they happen. You asked me what would account for this in your worldview. I gave the account, and now you're
And you said
saying,
geometry.
you know, well, that's just a word. That's literally the thing that you asked for. You asked for the account. I gave the account. I'm sorry that you're upset that I gave
Where
the
did it
account.
come from? How did it arise? Okay,
How did the
let me try this.
geometry arise?
How did the geometry arise?
Yeah, the geometry is going to emerge ultimately from the wave function, and I'm going to hold that the wave function is necessary.
That's not an ontology, and that's
It
not an
is.
epistemology.
Well, I agree it's not an epistemology.
What create?
You're
Okay,
super confused.
what causes the necessity? Then you're just
Necessary
saying
things
it's
aren't
necessary.
caused. If they're caused, then they're contingent, because they would come into existence if the eighth theory of time is true. Otherwise,
the necessity? What caused the necessity?
A necessity is not caused. Maybe you'd want to say that it's like grounded in something, but it's certainly
Yes.
not caused.
What is it grounded in?
Yeah, you'd say that it's grounded in like the further necessity of like being itself, self-consistency.
Oh, wow.
All the
Oh, my
self-consistent
gosh.
systems
You
are
guys are
going
so
to
circular,
be.
man.
Whoa,
Oh
do you
my
want to just calm
gosh.
down there? I bet if I asked you to summarize back to me what I just said, you wouldn't even be able to.
You said that it's caused by the
I said explicitly that it's not caused. You're an idiot.
Oh my gosh, man.
You can't track.
Where is the necessity of the laws of logic and physics and time and
I'm not claiming that
epistemology?
the laws of logic are grounded in physics. I'm claiming that they're grounded in the metaphysical structure of reality. But that's what the laws of logic do, is they pick out the structure of reality.
All right, where does gravity come from? Where does time
The geometry
come
of
from?
space-time.
Past, present, future. Okay, where did that geometry come from?
Yeah, the geometry is probably going to be emergent from the wave function.
Okay, where did the wave function come from?
Wave function is just going to be necessary.
And that's your answer. Okay, well,
Yeah.
God is just necessary.
Okay, so your internal critique failed, but we derived a contradiction in God. So we agree that your
God is
worldview
just
has a contradiction
necessary.
and mine doesn't.
God is just necessary.
No, he isn't. There's a contradiction.
Oh, argument over. Argument over. That's
But there's a contradiction.
but you're allowed
Oh no,
to use
he's trying to
that.
grandstand.
You're allowed to use
He's trying to
that, but I
grandstand as
can't.
if we didn't derive the contradiction in his worldview earlier.
Yeah, you're allowed to just say something's necessary. Are you serious? Is
There's
that
no
really your
contradiction in
argument?
my view. There is a contradiction in your view.
What's the contradiction in
Yeah,
my
the
view
contradiction in
opposed
your
to
view is
yours?
that God is both the creator and not the creator.
How is he both the creator and not the creator?
Yeah, he's the creator because God would be, you know, the source of all things, which would make him the creator. But then he's also not the creator because either he was eternally creating or not eternally creating. If he's eternally creating, then creation's just eternal, in which case he never creates it.
I didn't say he was eternally creating.
You did say
I said
that.
he
I slammed you so
eternally
hard you
was.
probably concussed, which is why you forgot
He
that you said
said
that.
he-
But if
I
I mean,
said
if your
he
debate strategy
eternally
relies
was.
on like forgetting the things that you said, I'll simply remind you of the things that you said earlier, and then we'll have to proceed from there. You did say
Okay,
that
well,
it was eternal.
I misspoke. I
Did you
don't know if he's
misspeak or did you
eternally
misthink?
creating. Or maybe I misthought. It doesn't matter. I don't know if he's eternally creating or not. I don't know.
Okay, well, we can explore both,
What's
right?
your name, man? I
I'm
appreciate
Ian.
the conversation with Ian. Okay, I'm Rob.
Yeah, nice to meet you, Rob. Yeah, we can explore both options. You know, either God's eternally creating or he's not eternally creating. If he's eternally
I don't-
creating, then well, it doesn't. I don't know doesn't help you in a dilemma. It needs to be one or the other. If the conclusion follows from both, then it's just going to be true regardless of which one it is.
Bro, this is somebody who's literally saying that everything comes from geometry and geometry is just
That's
necessary
not what
and
I
the
said.
necessity comes from a wave function.
It's not really what I
I
said.
mean, that's literally your argument, and you're going to tell me that when I tell you I don't know if God is eternally creating or not because the scripture doesn't say so, that I can't say I don't know? How is that an argument?
Yeah, let me help you out there. So it's just the law of excluded middle. Either God's act of creation is eternal or not eternal. If God's act of creation is eternal, then creation's eternal. If creation is eternal, then God never creates. That's a contradiction. So then the other one, if God's act of creation is not eternal, then God goes from not creating to creating. If God goes from not creating to creating, then God changes. If God changes, then God is in time. If God is in time, then God didn't create. Therefore, God didn't create. There you go.
Okay, let's run through your premise. Either God's act of creation is eternal or not eternal. And my premise was I don't know. Or my positive claim is I don't know if God's act. When you say his act of creation, let me ask you this. Are you talking about creating of the universe?
Yeah,
In
just
the
like the
beginning, God
exercising of his
created
creative powers.
the exercising of his creative powers. Yeah, but I mean, as Christians, we believe that there are things outside of the Bible that we don't know.
That's
Like
fine.
we have God's truth.
Here's the problem. That premise one is just an instance of the law of excluded middle. It's saying either this is true or it's not true. That's all this one's saying. It needs to be one or the other.
Okay. Either God's act of creation is eternal or not eternal. And again, I mean, I know you don't like this, but I say that God is not bound by the laws of logic. I believe that the same way
Then
that
how
they
can we
say,
reason about him?
I don't know that we can. I mean, I'm an
Then you can
apologist.
never
My
find.
goal is to proclaim the gospel to all nations. Like my goal is not to win a logical argument because Scripture says you're not going to believe unless God opens your heart anyways or shows you some kind of miracle or something. So I'm defending the faith. And if you don't accept that there's something beyond you that could be outside of the scope of your thinking, then you're not ready anyway.
Well, I just don't know why I would ever believe in something that's illogical. I mean, if you want to hold illogical beliefs, that's up to you. I only want to hold logical beliefs. I guess we can just let the audience decide, hey, audience, take it from this guy. If you want to believe something that's not logical, you can be Christian. If you want to believe things that are strictly logical, you need to be atheist.
Right. I got you. And that's why I took it all the way back to your epistemology for truth is that it's just necessary. And like saying
not really what I
something's
said.
necessary is illogical. I mean, that's what you
Wait, you
boiled it
never asked
down
me
to.
about my epistemology, only my metaphysics. These
Yeah,
things aren't the same.
Well, your epistemology meaning taking it back to the source of knowledge of your metaphysics is it's just necessary.
Whoa, sorry, that's not
And
it's just necessary, isn't an
well,
epistemology.
an epistemology is your source for truth or your source for knowledge.
It's your theory of knowledge is your epistemology.
Point, yeah, your point that it came from. Yeah. And I'm not a Phil bro. I just learned a lot of this stuff recently, so forgive me if I misspeak.
That's okay. Typically when we're talking about like epistemologies, the sorts of questions you want to be asking are like, I don't know, like what's the structure of knowledge? Are we coherentists about it, where we accept like circular arguments and then evaluate knowledge as like one cohesive unit, like one entire set of beliefs that determines whether or not it's like true or false? Are we going to be like foundationalists? Or is there like certain things that are unjustified but grant justification?
Right.
You know, what are we going to
Like
be?
brute facts, like Kant.
I don't know if what Kant was doing. I agree foundationalism is going to be something similar to what Kant is doing in some cases, but I'm not sure if it makes sense to say that what Kant is doing is just like a brute fact.
Well, even like Stephen Hawking said that the universe at its fundamental core state of being is just math and equations. And he's an atheist. And you know, that was his metaphysics, that at its core the universe is math equations because it can be solved and understood through math equations. And I personally believe as a Christian that God is the solution for that problem, in that where did these math equations, now you're going to say they're necessary, I mean, unless you disagree with Stephen Hawking, or Kant would say the brute facts of the universe, and I say that God is the only solution to that. Now you say, well, God has to fall within the laws of logic in order to be figured out to make that work. And I mean, I do appeal to mystery at that point. I admit I appeal to him being beyond my comprehension.
Wait, okay, so maybe you could help me with this one. So I just went ahead and I pulled up. I think that what you just said doesn't really make sense. So I just went ahead and pulled up the Einstein field equations. Where am I supposed to be plugging God into? If you're off the app, I can't hear you, by the way. I'm just trying to find. You said that God is the solution. I'm trying to make sense of that.
Sorry.
Where should we put him?
No, I don't think that he can be neatly fit into math equations. That's not what I meant. I meant, where did the math equations come from?
Well, presumably what you'd want to say is that they derive in some way from the quantum realm.
Sure. I mean, you guys like to say quantum fields and all that stuff. And I would say, well, if it does come out of quantum fields, where would the quantum field come from? And I would say that the creator of the universe created the quantum fields. I think that takes a lot less faith than saying that they're just necessary, or
But
they
you think
just
God's
are
just
because they
necessary?
are.
What's the problem? If you think God's just
Yeah.
necessary, then what's the problem with
Well,
saying, for example, that being is necessary?
Well, I think it just makes more sense that you have a creator.
What's
If
the
you have math
epistemological
equations,
justification for thinking that God is necessary? Like, what would justify that
again,
belief?
right. Again, if you have order and sequence, and we only see that in the universe as we see it coming out of a mind, then it would make sense that a creative mind created the order and sequence that is the brute facts, or is the math equations at the fundamental, the geometry, as you said. I mean, that to me is like I said, that's what broke me out of atheism. I mean, sorry. I read Carl Sagan, I read Dawkins, I read Bill Bryson. I was a flagrant atheist, and I just looked around at the world one day and I said, there's no way that this just self arose, that there's no purpose, that
It's a good thing
the
atheists
past,
don't need to
present,
believe
future.
that.
What's that?
It's a good thing that atheists aren't committed to that.
What, committed to what?
Atheists don't need to believe that the universe just arose from nothing, or arose randomly in the way that people describe it.
Well, but most atheists do believe that there was just a big bang that they can't give a justification for, and that somehow atoms and just smashed together and became light and spun, and a world came out, and I came out on the other side having a discussion with Ian. And that's just so unlikely.
Do you often form your beliefs based on what the other people in that same group believe? Like, if every person in Christianity adopted like a really implausible view on, I don't know, like Christian ethics, but there's like a much more plausible view that you could easily adopt, wouldn't, I mean, you know, if you have good reason to think that Christianity is true, then presumably
we don't agree on much. Yeah, Christians are all
presumably
over.
at that point, what you do is you accept the good stuff and you reject, like, I don't know, I don't form my beliefs based on what other atheists think. I form the strongest worldview that I can. It just happens to be atheist.
Well, that's fair enough. But I mean, if you don't believe that this is all just random accident, chance, and all there is physicality in the universe, I don't think you're really an atheist. I think you're an agnostic, which, I mean, that's fine. But I feel like an atheist is a hard physicalist that just believes there's there was a dot one day that exploded, and like I said, we came out on the other end at this moment. You know,
Yeah,
and
no,
there are
that's
people
just
who
not
believe
true.
that.
That's like, I know there are people that think that, you know, that's just not what an atheist is. An atheist is just a person committed to the proposition that God does not exist. You know, if you believe that, you're an atheist. You can be an atheist and be like a Buddhist, for example. You can believe in reincarnation and think that there is no God, and you know that would qualify as like a form of atheism. You know,
Really,
what for sure doesn't make you a theist is believing that there are like abstract objects. In fact, there's a well-established problem between God's existence and abstract objects. So, you know, if God exists and abstract objects like numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 exist, and both of them are necessary, it's not clear what sort of relation God could have to these abstract objects. It seems like they exist independently of God.
why would you say that? Why wouldn't God create them?
Because you think that they're contingent, not necessary.
Why do they have to be contingent? I would
Because
say
you
that
think that
they're
God could
part
have
of
not
the.
created them.
No, I don't think that God could have not created them. I think in this universe, God created everything.
Could God have not created numbers?
Could he have not? This universe would be different if he did.
Yeah.
I suppose he could have not. I believe
Yeah.
like
So you think
numbers
they're
are just
contingent?
like DNA and numbers are like languages of God. Like where did these languages come from?
So
Mathematics,
here's the problem with what
DNA,
you just said is that you've committed yourself to believing that things like 1 + 1 is 2 is a contingent truth.
contingent upon what?
It's contingent upon God creating it. So you don't think that 1 + 1 is necessarily true. You think 1 + 1 is possibly, but not
Yeah,
necessarily
I
2.
do believe it's a law, yes. And I'll tell you why, because you can look in the physical world and look at things like elements that have balances of electrons and protons and neutrons, and you have 7 protons and 7 neutrons, and you have a symmetry, and it creates this element or this kind of metal or this kind of atomic structure. And yes, I absolutely believe that that can be perfectly described by math, and there's no other explanation than a designer for that. That was one of the truths that brought me to God.
What?
Absolutely.
Couldn't you explain that just with the underlying geometry?
I see the underlying geometry as an obvious sequence that shows a mind. Again, we can't see sequence out of anything but a mind.
That's just
Repeated
not true.
sequence that is descriptive, and you have a symmetry where you can reapply it and repeat it
Yeah, I
and
don't
show
grant that.
toward.
We have lots of examples of this exact thing coming from things that aren't minds. You know, for example, like what you'd be doing is unironic question begging because, you know, I would give you a counterexample, like the tree that comes about and produces, you know, the sequence of rings without a mind, but then you'd say it does have a mind. So you'd just be begging the question against the counterexample.
Well, I'd say that a mind is necessary to create that thing because it's a system that has towardness.
Not
For example,
granted.
when a tree when a tree starts out as a seed, right? There's DNA in that seed, and there's mathematical order within that DNA, and that is just a seed. Now, within that seed is I'm going to sprout this, and then I'm going to grow this like, then I'm going to shoot veins down into the earth, roots down into the earth, and I'm going to symbiotically react. All that is in the seed because, and that shows towardness. So we have no example outside of a mind that show a sequence that forecasts future events and then does them and creates them. Only do we see minds doing that.
Well, DNA would be like a trivial example of that. Like I could just say
Yes.
DNA as my example.
Right. So what is your epistemology on DNA? What is
My
your
like how do I know that DNA exists? Is that what the question?
no, like what is your source for DNA?
Well, so like what's the causal explanation for DNA?
Yes.
You're not
Yeah.
asking for an epistemology, you're asking just for like a causal explanation then. So the causal
I mean,
explanation for DNA
right.
is that it comes about via chemical reactions, that there are processes that create pockets of order, but then overall, in total, more disorder elsewhere. But in these pockets of order, that's where you're going to find things like sequences of DNA. Over the lifetime of the human, we create way more disorder than we do order. Like, think about, for example, like all the trash and all that you throw away, all the processing that you do. We create a fuck ton of disorder
I
and like
don't disagree with
relatively
that.
little
Yeah.
order compared to our bodies. Humans are a fantastic mechanism of entropy production.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, when we go out and have a conversation like this, or play a musical instrument, or build a house or something, like we are showing a towardness, and we are making plans, and we are setting goals, and then we are
I agree.
achieving those
Yeah, I
goals.
agree.
Yeah, and so like what I'm saying is you don't see that outside of a mind, but DNA does do that.
I
DNA
don't think
builds a
that DNA
house.
like literally has goals that it's setting. I think that it is functions. I don't
So
think
how do
that like,
you?
for example, the rain cloud has like the goal of raining. I think that it has like the function of doing that. That if you carry it through via the laws of physics, that it's going to rain. I don't think that it's like, fuck yeah, I'm gonna rain. I don't think that like fortunate sun is like blaring in the background as the rain cloud like gets into position and it's like, fuck yeah, it's raining time.
No, I agree. I'm not talking about a rain cloud. Again, like I used the example of the seed, we could use the example of a zygote in the womb, which is just a tiny, a few cells, and but yet in a month it's going to have little hands, and then it's going to have little digits, and then it's going to have little eyes, and then it's going to start to grow lungs. So it within that zygote is a code that is pre-programmed to create and build something more complex. And to try to give an account outside of a mind, we have no other examples of anything like that in the universe. That's why DNA is
Well,
the
wait,
great
it's just a
troll of
thing that
atheists.
evolves in that way according to the laws of physics, in the same way that the rain cloud does that. You know, you can trace
How
how all these droplets are going to come together via condensation and are going to give rise to the rain cloud, which will then, you know, precipitate just in alignment with the laws of physics. I don't know if I'd say that.
But we've seen that. We've never seen that with DNA on its own. We've never seen anything close to it. Matter of fact,
Seen what
us
with DNA
thinking
on its own?
we've never seen DNA, like we've seen clouds arise. So I would say I agree with you. You get a whirlwind, you get hot pressures and cold pressures, and you see a cloud arise. But we've never seen anything like that with DNA, where
Yeah.
DNA came
Have
out
we
of
seen God
chemicals,
design DNA?
abiogenesis.
Have,
Well, you're looking at the example.
well, and you're looking
You're
at the
looking.
example of abiogenesis then.
Yeah, but what I'm
This
saying
argument cuts
is that
both ways.
I understand what you're saying. That's a fair point, but hold on. What I'm saying is when we do see something like a car or a computer designed with function and towardness and intentionality, it always comes from a creative mind. And humans are created in the image of God, meaning that we have a creative power. So a creative power had to be responsible for abiogenesis. Even if it was abiogenesis, the fact that it has towardness and intentionality and complex order and systems and
Well,
mechanisms
I don't grant that it
is
has intentionality. I agree that
well
it
then
is like complex systems, but like clouds are complex systems, crystals are complex systems. I don't think that those things require minds to come about. I think that they just
yeah,
require
but
laws of physics and then things evolving in accordance with the
yeah,
laws of
but how do
physics.
you but are you telling me that DNA has no intentionality?
Yeah, like trivially.
Okay, so like, so how do you have, again, how do you have a zygote that is two cells, and in a month, at a precise time, over and over and over, we can watch those two cells grow arms and then grow hands and then grow eyes and then grow a brain and then live a life. Like that is
Yeah.
intentionality.
Well, wait, what
That
that
is
is
towardness.
like a really complex genome that's evolved over billions of years. Evolution perfectly explains all of this.
Well, you first off, we haven't seen that, so I don't grant you that. Like
Do you want the evidence for
you're absolutely
evolution? I can give you
you
like
are
tons of
abs
evidence for that.
you're but we have never actually seen that. Like we've never seen
But we've
one
never seen
species
God create it.
become another
That's not
species.
your
Well,
standard.
God is a faith. I admit I'm in a religion and I'm making a faith claim.
Okay,
See,
then
when you
here's going to be
say
the
that your
response. I don't
religion
think that
is
you need to
science.
directly observe something in order to have evidence for it. I think that you can have evidence that the thing happened even if you didn't literally see it from start to finish. Like, for example, you can infer what probably happened, what the most likely thing that happened is based on what it left behind, like the fossils, for example.
Right. But you know what we have seen? We have seen a computer get created. We
Mhm.
have seen an internal combustion engine get created. And you know how it was created? A creative mind sought out a plan, sourced raw materials, built rudimentary systems, and then complicated those systems over time. And
Yeah.
that took a creative mind with a will
Yeah, it's
that
too
could
bad.
observe
I mean,
and
it's too
have
bad that the
consciousness.
computer looks literally nothing like the human genome. The computer is way better coded and designed
Well,
than the human genome.
actually,
The human genome is a fucking mess. It literally contains like parasitic genes that go around and cause like harmful mutations more often than not. You have useless pieces of DNA that don't do anything. You know, all of this stuff makes genuinely zero sense if God designed it, but it makes a lot of
well,
sense if it came from evolution.
well, first off, that's not an argument against a complex system that has order and towardness
Why
being
did God
designed.
put
That's
useless components in?
right. That's your argument. Your argument is I don't like the way that God did it, so he
It's that
didn't
a
do
perfect
it.
designer creates a
Yeah.
perfect design. The human body is an imperfect design.
Well, first off, I don't think that we're in a state of perfection. I think that we're in a state of fallenness right now, that we're in a
Okay.
fallen world.
Not
So it makes
granted.
perfect. So I mean, I understand that your worldview is
Wait,
your
how
worldview.
disorderly would things need to be for you to think that they didn't come from an intelligent designer?
If you take away, so I believe that God has left enough evidence for his people to stand on faith rationally and logically,
No, you
and
don't.
for
You think
people
God's
like you,
illogical.
no,
You think your belief
no,
is illogical.
no, I don't think that. I think that you get the evidence that your heart seeks out.
Wait, you literally
So
said that
if
earlier,
you
like
want
10 times
to,
you said that God is your
so
belief in
what?
God is illogical.
No, it is
You
a
said that we can't
faith.
reason about God.
Well, God is outside of the laws of logic. Yes, God is
Yeah, so it's
not
an
bound
illogical
by the laws of
belief.
logic. No, I mean, I don't think it's illogical because I'm within the laws of logic making a proclamation that I believe that there is a God, that is the most likely scenario,
And is that
but
belief
he is
logical or
outside. He is
illogical?
not bound. He is not bound by the laws of logic. So I believe there is something bigger than this universe outside of it that is not, and you believe that too. If you believe in physics and science, you believe that 85% of this universe is dark matter, yet we can't observe it. The only thing we
Okay.
know is the gravitational pull of it. So,
Okay.
like, again, when I see the intentionality of DNA grow and develop, human hands, human eyes, and things, we only see that as in the example of an internal combustion and
Wait, and sorry,
a
and do you think
computer
do you think you
and
can
these things.
logically infer the existence of a God off of that?
Within my 3 pound human brain, fallen nature, and my small worldview and perspective that we all have, yes, I
Oh,
think
okay,
that
wait. So do you think that I can
God
infer the
has left
non-existence of
pleasant.
God within my small 3-pound human brain based off of contradiction?
Well, if you want to get into Christian theology, it
Well,
says
wait, that was a
that
yes or no
deep down,
question.
no, deep down, you know God exists. That's
Oh,
what I
well, then
believe.
this is a trivial disproof of God. Premise one, if Christianity is true, then I know God exists. Premise two, I don't know God exists. Therefore, God isn't real.
Well, do you believe that you can be deceived? Do you believe that people can be deceived? Self-deception? Do you believe in
Yeah, I
self-deception?
think that people can deceive themselves about some things, but I know
Well,
that I
that's what
don't
I
believe in
believe.
God.
I believe that every atheist and deconstructionist watching this live right now is self-deceived, suppressing the truth and unrighteousness
Prove
because of
it.
the accountability of
Yeah,
sin.
prove
They don't want the
it.
accountability of sin.
Go ahead and prove
Well,
that.
the moral argument proves that. So
Oh, you don't want to do the moral argument.
do we have any
You
moral
definitely don't have the goods for
obligations?
this one. Yeah, only
Well,
under atheism, though.
you
Under
want it?
Christianity, you have zero moral obligations. Let me demonstrate that to you. Let's say I don't care what God says. Let's say God exists, but I don't care what he says, and I don't care that he's going to send me to hell if I don't care what he says. Would a person like that have any reason to do what God tells them?
No, but
Oh,
that's why
then your
we set
ethics are
up this.
subjective. The authority in your worldview is that you subjectively have to decide to listen to God. So under your
No,
worldview, there are no objective moral obligations. It's all subjective.
no, because there's punishments for them.
Sorry. Wait, that doesn't make it objective. If they don't care about the punishment, then they have no reason. In order for it to be objective ethics, it needs to give reasons to everyone. If somebody doesn't
Well,
have a
I
reason
didn't
to do
say
it,
they
then it's not
shouldn't.
objective.
Right. No, I hear you. No, that's a fair point. What I'm saying is I didn't say they shouldn't, but clearly with all the people in the world that are wicked, there are many people that don't care about God's divine law and violate it. And I believe that God is God of justice. That's why we set up court systems. That's why the Bible prescribes punishments for people that unalive, for people that grape, for people that do these things. God tells us not to do it, and when we violate it, He tells us to carry out justice against those who do it. But clearly, some people don't care about God's law or the consequences. And you know that God that for example, unaliving innocent people is wrong. You know it is wrong. Is unaliving innocent people
Wait,
always
sorry. Let me
wrong?
let me just give the syllogism for why your ethics are subjective. If Christianity is true, then a person who doesn't care what God says and doesn't care that God is going to torture them has no reason to follow God's ethics.
Well, I reject that they don't have a reason
Oh,
to
wait.
follow
So what reason would they have to follow God's ethics then?
because of punishment.
But they don't care about that. So what reason do they have to care about the punishment?
What reason do they have to care about? Because the punishment is going to harm them.
Yeah, they don't care about that. What reason do they have to care about that?
Well, I mean, there probably are psychopath people like that.
Yeah, sure. So then there aren't universal reasons in your worldview.
Well, it's still a reason. I mean,
They don't have a reason. They don't care about that.
Reason. I mean, it's a fallen world. God lets the wheats grow amongst the tares. Are you familiar with scripture? Are you familiar with the verse about the wheats and the tares?
Yeah, you're separating like the wheat from the chaff.
At the end, so the Lord tells them, you know, somebody has planted a bunch of tares amongst the wheat. The wheat is the harvest of souls that are the people of God. And the steward says, do you want me to go pluck up the wheat, which would be the psychopaths and all those that reject God, all the warmongers, and the Lord says, no, let them grow amongst the wheat so that at the end we may harvest. We don't want to damage the wheat in the process. Well, we have free will. We're here to learn. We're here to overcome our flesh. We're here to get tried. We're here to be groomed for heaven. And in the midst is people who are psychopaths. The Bible says there are people that are created for destruction.
Wait,
they are created for nothing but to be destroyed. There are people who are created to go to hell.
I just want to know which premise you
People
reject.
don't like that.
Do you reject premise one
That's
or premise
Romans
2?
7.
So we got premise 1, if ethics are objective, then necessarily everyone has a reason to follow it. Premise 2, if Christianity is true, then a person who doesn't care what God says and doesn't care that God is going to torture them has no reason to follow God's ethics. Therefore, if Christianity is true, then ethics are not objective.
Why does that not make ethics objective if somebody doesn't want to follow it?
If somebody does, it's not if somebody doesn't want to, it's that they don't have a reason to. The question is whether or not they have a reason to.
So because somebody doesn't have a reason to follow something in their mind,
say that they ought do it.
Real?
If there isn't a reason to do it, then you can't say that they ought do it.
No, I can say that they ought do it because God
means that they have a reason to do it. That's what the word ought means. It's just that a person has like totality reason to do something. When I say you ought go to your classes, I'm saying that you have totality reason to go to your classes.
It's no different than the government when they post a speed limit and they say you ought go 50 miles per hour, and people say, well, I don't have a reason to go 50, not go 60 miles an hour, and then they go 60 miles an hour. That doesn't mean that speed limit isn't there. So like,
wait, do you think that person has a reason to do it? Because if the person has a reason to do that, then you would say that they ought do it. And if they don't have a reason to do it, then you wouldn't say that they ought do it.
No, but that doesn't mean that law isn't there.
What do you think the word ought means?
That they should do it. But
what is the word? Okay, should is like a synonym. What do you think should means? Should means the same thing. It means like reason to do it.
It's a moral claim saying that they
not necessarily.
An ought is a moral claim.
That's not true. Like for example, the example I gave earlier, you can say that you ought to go to your classes. That's not a moral claim.
Yeah, but it doesn't. You're saying that it makes the laws not objective.
It does, yeah. If not everyone has a reason to do it, then it's subjective. You need to subjectively decide to care about this.
Again, so the speed limit doesn't exist because somebody says I don't have a reason to follow the speed limit.
If somebody doesn't have a reason to follow the speed limit, then you can't say that they ought follow it. Ought means that they have the totality reason to do it.
I tried telling that to a cop when he pulls you over and gives you a speeding ticket.
Well, yeah, but that would be the reason to not do it. And if you don't care about that, then you would say that you didn't have a reason to not do it.
Yeah, but the speed limit still exists.
Yeah, but it's a question about whether or not everyone ought to do it.
Oh, well, you can make that opinion and then suffer the consequences, but that doesn't mean the rule is not there. The
If you
rule of
don't
sin
care
and
about the
death is still
consequences, then
there.
there's no reason why you shouldn't.
Yeah, but that doesn't make the law not real. That does not make the 10 Commandments of
It
God
does mean
not
that it's
real.
not objectively normative. It's not objectively reason giving.
It's objectively applicable.
So you would disagree that in order to say that somebody ought to do it, like you think that you can say you ought to do this thing even though you have no reason to?
Yes.
Okay,
Because
so you don't
I
think
don't want to see you go to hell,
you don't
brother.
think that everyone has a reason to do the good thing in your view?
I don't think that everyone has a reason to do. I do believe everyone has a reason.
Okay, wait. And is it
But
so you
again,
just
it
agree
goes
with the
back to
first one?
self-deception.
Okay,
It goes back to
gosh.
self-deception. You can self-deceive yourself. You can
Wait, so
suppress
to
the
be
truth
clear,
and
you do agree
unrighteousness.
with the first one then?
Hold on. Which is what? If ethics are objective, then necessarily everyone has a reason to. No, I don't agree with that.
But you
Because
do
if
think everyone
ethics
has a
are
reason to follow
objective,
it.
I would say that everyone ought to follow it because the lawgiver
Okay.
of the universe made them a law. Like
Okay, listen, man.
unaliving innocent
It's
people.
becoming clear to me that you just don't know what words mean. If you don't know what the word ought means, like that's like more of a you problem, I guess. That's okay.
Can you defend your position in atheism?
Yeah.
Is unaliving innocent people always wrong?
Oh, always wrong? I think that you have a strong reason to not do it in every circumstance.
So it's not always wrong to unalive innocent people.
No, you could definitely think of like a circumstance, right? Like let's say that there's like I'll give you a circumstance. Well, actually, can I get you to commit to that position that it's always wrong so I can give you like an absurd fucking circumstance for you to bite the bullet on?
Is it always wrong to unalive innocent people?
No,
for
not
fun?
necessarily. You always have a reason to not do it, but no, it's not always wrong. I'll give you an example. Let's
For
say
fun.
that we have a person in a coma and they're going to die in half a second. You have to kill this person in a coma who's going to die in half a second anyway. Otherwise, like a trillion babies get fucking tortured and resurrected for infinity. Which one are you going to do?
I mean, it's a trolley problem, man.
Answer the question, scumbag. You wanted to go here. Answer the question. What's the right thing to do?
Say it again.
Yeah,
Hold on, because
yeah.
you didn't
There's
let
a
me
person, an innocent
you ain't gotta
person
go
in a
ad hominem, man.
comatose.
We're having a conversation.
Whoa. Yeah, innocent person in a comatose. They're gonna die in half a second anyway. You can instantly kill them. It's easy. And otherwise, like a trillion babies will get tortured and resurrected and tortured and resurrected and tortured and resurrected for infinity. What do you think the right thing to do there is? Because to me, the answer is obvious. You should kill the innocent person.
You're going to kill the innocent person.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah. Well, thankfully, the God that I worship doesn't create a universe where we have to go through situations like that. But let me ask you this. Is it always wrong to torture innocent people for fun when there's no consequence? You just want to do it.
Yeah.
Is that always wrong?
I think that's always wrong.
That's always wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, where do you ground that?
Yeah, that's going to come from the fact that everybody has a right to freedom and well-being. You have like a prima facie reason
really
to respect other people's freedom and well-being. Yeah.
And where does that come from?
Yeah, it's necessitated by the laws of logic. So it comes like this. I'm an agent. What that means is that I take actions to achieve my goals. But in order to achieve my goals, I would need my freedom and well-being, which means that I need for you to not interfere with it, which means that I'm claiming that I have a right to my freedom and well-being. But if me being an agent is sufficient for me to have this property, then all agents must have this property. Therefore, everyone has a right to freedom and well-being, which means that you have a prima facie reason to not violate people's freedom and well-being.
Well, what if I define my freedom and well-being as coming and taking your stuff? Like
That's
you're violating my
it's not freedom and well-being. It's not universalizable either.
Yeah, sure. In my mind, it's universal. Are the
There's
laws
a
of
contradiction
logic
there.
are the laws of is morality subjective?
No, it's subjective. I know on your view it's subjective, but on my view it's objective.
No, it's definitely not because I ground it in God. You have nothing to ground.
Is God a subject?
Where is
God's an object?
morality?
You don't think God, I don't know, is like an agent? You don't think God has free will?
Yeah.
Do subjects have free will or do objects have free will?
In this case, I would say that God is objective and has free will.
So you do think that they're like objects, like rocks, tables, chairs, and shit that have free will?
No, when I say objective, I mean that he's outside of a mind. Subjective meaning
God doesn't have a mind?
No, outside of a mind. He exists outside of my mind.
Oh, wait. So if I told you what to do, would that be objective because I exist outside of your mind?
If you told me what to do,
would that be objective because I exist outside of your mind?
No, because you're not God, obviously.
Okay, sure. So what's the criteria then? Because it's not just existing outside of your mind. What's the criteria?
What? No, I'm just making a statement about the nature of God is that he is not within a human mind.
Okay, so if I
That's all
found
I'm
like a
saying.
Neanderthal and then that Neanderthal told me what to do, would that be objective because that's outside of like a human mind?
This is a straw man. This has nothing
If
to do
a Nephilim
with
came down,
God's
let's say a devil came down and told me what to do, would that be objective because it's outside of a human mind?
It would be objective in a sense that it's outside of a human mind, yes. But what does that
You
have to
think
do with
following
God?
what a devil tells you would qualify as objective morality?
No, I've said that a devil outside of a human mind would be an objective thing. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, so if a devil came down and told you what to do, would that qualify as objective morality?
As objective morality? No.
Why not?
Absolutely not. Well, I mean, the scripture tells us not to do anything outside of the true gospel, even if an angel or a devil tells us to.
But what's the standard? How do we determine whether or not something is objective morality?
Is objective morality by God's word?
Oh, so it's just blatant question begging. So the atheist position could literally never, just by your definition of objective, it couldn't ever satisfy that?
We're all question begging at the root. That's what I was trying to show you. It's just that I have a ground for being in God, and yours is just, oh, it's just necessary, bro.
I don't
That's
know.
what that's your ontology.
I'm not sure I
and your
grant that everything is
epistemology
question begging, but let's say I did. Let's say that I did grant like some like coherentist model. Okay.
It comes down to faith.
Well, I don't think that that's true either.
Okay,
right?
well,
Like there's
that's
going
my
to be,
worldview.
you
So
know,
you're gonna misplace your faith, or you're gonna put your faith correctly.
Okay.
And I pray that you would repent and put your faith in Jesus Christ. He died on a cross for your sins.
you know, I don't know. Like I want to get somewhere with this conversation. But we need
It's
like
been good.
some sort of like clear criteria for what makes something like objective ethics or not objective ethics. You can't just
Sure.
define your worldview as the
Ten
only correct
Commandments.
worldview.
Why not?
Why can't I do the same then? Why can't I say that objective ethics are when
You can,
it doesn't
and one
come
of
from
us is
God?
wrong.
Okay.
And it's clear which one makes more sense. By the laws of logic,
Doesn't your God say that you can do slavery?
absolutely not.
So he doesn't
Actually,
say you can own people as property?
There is a video on my page about that. The slaves could leave at any time, and if anyone tried to
Definitely false.
Look on my bio, and you'll see videos about
Yeah,
that.
what about
verse.
Exodus 21:7, where it says that the slaves are not to go free?
There's another verse that says.
Wait, can you address Exodus 21:7?
Hold on.
Yeah, let me
Hold
pull
on,
this up.
I gotta get my.
If a
gotta
man
get my-
sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. So it's saying
Okay.
explicitly that these people can't leave.
She shall not go out as the males do. That means that you're not. That's protecting women from having to work in the field, bro.
No, it's saying like they can't leave. Like the verses before this are about if an Israelite gets sold to you, then they leave after the 7th year. But it's saying like the Israelite women, no, those are slaves for life.
No, that's not what it's saying.
Let's just read the verse. It's like obvious.
The early church did not interpret it that way. The Jews didn't interpret it that way. That's a
They definitely
deconstructionist
did.
interpretation.
Okay, so let's just read
Nope.
it. These are the ordinances that you shall set before them. When you buy a male Hebrew slave, he shall serve 6 years, but in the 7th he shall go out a free person without debt. If he comes in single, he shall go out single. If he comes in married, then his wife shall go out with him. If his master gives him a wife and she bears him a son, or daughters, the wife and her children shall be her masters, and he shall go out alone. But if the slave declares, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out a free person, then his master shall bring him before God. He shall be brought to the door or the doorpost, and his master shall
Yeah,
pierce his
he
ear with an
keeps.
awl, and he shall serve him for life. When a man sells his daughter as a slave, she shall not go out as the male slaves do. So it sets up the scenario where it's saying, okay, if an Israelite man sells himself as a slave, then he leaves after the 7th year. He goes out after the 7th year. But if a man sells his daughter into slavery, they're not to go out.
Ian, I hear you, man. That's your interpretation. That's not what scholars say. That she's not to go
Name
out in
2
the
scholars
field and
that
work
espouse your
and have
position.
to dig. Because I can't name a scholar does not mean my claim is not
I have no
true. So
reason to think that you didn't just make this up.
that's a fallacy. Go to
Okay.
answers. Go to Got Questions. Go to Answers in Genesis. Go to my page, my bio. I do where it says that any slave owner that prevents a slave from leaving. These were indentured servants. These were not slaves.
Categorically
Chattel
false.
slave. Chattel slavery was punishable by the death penalty in the Old
Categorically
Testament.
false.
And Christian abolitionists, which actually ended antebellum slavery, used verses in the Old Testament to say these slaves were created in the image of God and we should not be enslaving them. Now, I admit there were a lot of Christians involved in the slave trade, and they were dead wrong. They were false Christians. But Christian abolitionists that actually got slavery abolished in Britain and in America were Christians using the Old Testament.
What's your interpretation of the verse then?
Frederick Douglass, that she should not go out and dig and work in the field as the man.
So, and when it says that, but in the 7th year, he shall go out a free person, what does that mean?
That's talking about the year of Jubilees.
So go out in Exodus 21:2 means leave your slavery, and then go out in Exodus 21:7, 5 verses later, go out means, like go out and work.
That's an equivocation fallacy. You're saying because he used the same terminology in one that he's referring to the same thing as the other.
Yeah, clearly.
All I'm telling you,
it says go out as the male slaves do. Yeah.
If you look in rabbinic Judaism, if you look in the Talmud, they all taught that was women not going out in the field.
Wait, source? Can I get the source for that?
Go ask Gemini.
Yeah. So I'm
Gemini
on Exodus.
you.
I'm on gotquestions.com. Or sorry, gotquestions.org, Exodus 21:7. It doesn't appear anywhere on here.
Okay.
You're lying.
Well, I assumed it did.
Yeah, I know you assumed that. You were hoping that. Unfortunately, when you believe a lot of false things, you can't make a lot of assumptions.
Because I can't remember my source, I've read that before in multiple times. Because I can't remember my source doesn't mean what I'm saying is not true.
Well, it's just
you're preaching deconstruction dogma. I mean, I get it.
How is it dogma when the verse is right in front of you?
Because
unfortunately, the words have meaning.
You guys all say the same thing. I've debated Justin and Blitz. I've debated all you guys, and you all say the same thing. It's your dogma. Yeah.
How is it dogma when we're able to read the words and honestly interpret them?
Well, that's your interpretation. What I'm saying is the Christians have never interpreted like that for 2,000 years.
Prove it. Go prove that.
We ended slavery.
Wait, sorry. Prove that it was never interpreted that way by a single Christian throughout all of history. Go ahead and prove that.
Well, I can't prove that. I don't
you made it up.
I'm not
obviously false claim.
There are Christians who have distorted the Bible, but the church as a whole has been anti-Christian. Gregory of Nyssa was the first Christian abolitionist and ended slavery in the Roman Empire. Look that up. So
what should I Google to find okay, I have Google in front of me. Point me in a direction that Exodus 21:7 is saying that they're not supposed to work.
Hold on, let me get my tablet. I'll help you out. Hold on. Baby.
I wonder, maybe let's check the translations of this. Exodus 21:7.
There's a blanket statement in Deuteronomy that says that a slave shall go free at any time.
Great, then your book's a contradiction.
No, it's not a contradiction.
Yep, it says they shouldn't go. They both can go and can't go. It's a contradiction.
It's talking about indentured servitude.
It's talking about slavery.
You're speaking out of context, bro.
No, it's talking about slavery. You know, when you sell a person as property, that's slavery.
Well, that was those times, and that's you could sell yourself into slavery, and then there were contractual obligations to that.
Well, so okay, I'm looking at a lot of translations say go free. She is not to go free. That's how it gets
Yeah, I mean,
translated.
that's not. Let me see here. Hold on.
Maybe it means like, you know, maybe it means free, like, you know, free to work in the fields, and it's saying like women don't work in the fields. Maybe that's what it means by go out free.
Well, Ian, even if I'm wrong, and I grant you that God allowed slavery under the old covenant, we're under the new covenant where
Your ethics are abhorrent if you grant that.
you are to love your neighbors. What based on what? What is your
Yeah,
moral
based on the
standard?
fact that your morals are contradictory. That's my moral standard is logic.
Your moral standard is logic, and
Yeah.
yet you are using circular reason to give account for
What was the
reality and
conclusion, and how did I presuppose it within the argument?
the universe at its fundamental level is geometry, and
Sorry, you're like
geometry
pivoting
just
away?
is. No, I'm giving your account that is circular.
Wait, sorry, you're like pivoting to like 30 minutes ago?
No, I'm saying that you're saying it's a contradiction.
First of all, you said that God just is, that God is grounded in himself. I think that everything's going to reduce to the consistency of being.
And you're inconsistent because by saying something is necessary, you have no consistency for that.
How is that? Wait, you don't want to say that because you want to say God's necessary. So if you're saying that saying something is necessary makes you inconsistent, then that means that you would be inconsistent for saying that God is necessary. That's an indictment of your own view. You definitely don't want to say that.
I
Pull the
believe in a
ripcord, man.
creator. I believe in a creator that is outside of the laws of logic.
Yeah, exactly. You
just
believe
say
in the
they're just
illogical
necessary.
fuckwit God. That's right. Yeah, you believe in an illogical thing. I forgot.
What's your what's this Bible verse again? I'm gonna go to
Exodus
Doc question.
21:7. What a great ad for Christianity. You know, come be Christian. It's illogical.
I mean, you have no grounding for morality. So
yes, I do. Laws of logic are my grounding.
At least Justin can admit that morality is ultimately subjective.
I disagree with Justin about this. This is something we disagree on.
Actually, I'm glad that you guys actually will disagree on something because you usually never disagree on anything.
We disagree. Our worldviews are quite different. Same with me and that scumbag Dr. Blitz. God, I hate that guy.
Why?
You know, he ran over my wife, and then he was like, oops, you know, it's time to throw this into reverse. It's time to reverse entropy. And then he backed up over her again.
Like physically, or are you talking about?
Yeah, physically. And oh my God, he's justifying it in the comments.
I think you're probably joking.
No, yeah, I'm joking. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys are buddies.
Yeah. My girlfriend watches.
You guys will call each other out.
My girlfriend watches Blitz's stream more than she watches mine.
Exodus 21:7?
Yeah, Exodus 21:7.
All right, let me see here.
That's how I know that Dr. Blitz and his wife call each other like Bab, and me and my girlfriend call each other Beb. We're working all those now, or all those fucking not nouns, all the
You guys gonna have kids?
Yeah.
Do you want kids, Ian?
Yeah.
You do want kids?
Yeah.
Praise God.
It's Babs. Fuck. I'm being exposed for not watching enough Dr. Blitz.
All right, I'm asking Gemini, what does Exodus 21:7 mean according to scholars?
Sometimes I call her Bob. Gotta switch up the vowels.
In ancient Near East, there was no modern social safety nets. She shall not. While Hebrew male servants were automatically released after 6 years of labor, women entering a household enter Exodus 21:7 were bound by different rules. All right, so maybe you're right.
Yeah. Well,
At least.
isn't
Oh
it
wait,
just
wait,
kind of
wait, hold on.
horrific?
This is according to Reddit. I can't. Reddit is not a good source.
Well, it
Hold
might
on.
be true that Reddit's not a good source, but unfortunately, it is just what the word
That's not a
means.
scholar, dude.
The word,
I'm
well,
looking.
I would never cite Reddit, but the word
Yeah,
seems to
okay.
mean something like "go free." In this context, it seems to be referring
Academic
to
consensus
allowing them to
views
go free.
these statutes as a form of progressive regulation rather than endorsing slavery or the sale of by transforming. Yeah, all I'm getting is Reddit. So I can't get a scholar's commentary.
I bet all the scholars, I would imagine the scholars agree with me based on the way that it keeps getting translated.
All right, well, let me see what the Talmud says. What does Talmud say about Exodus? So your account for morality is the laws of logic.
Yeah, I
and
think
your
there's like
account-
certain like necessary contradictions, or I think there's like certain contradictions that arise out of denying people the right to freedom and well-being.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, I agree that that morality is objective. That's actually like I'm surprised you're saying that because most atheists bite the bullet and say ultimately, you know, the Bible guy and Justin, most of them ultimately say morality is subjective.
Yeah, I think that's like a bit of a misstep. Although, to be fair, I do think that it's like a reasonable position to take if you haven't looked into this very much. I think that if morality is objective, it's not objective because I really want it to be. It would have to be objective because there's some sort of reason that everyone has to do something. I think that that's the key question that determines
Right, but
objectivity
like,
versus subjectivity is whether or not there's some sort of universal reason for action.
right, and I agree with you. And like we have differing worldviews, fair enough. I mean, my reason I would say is that there's a creator who's given us a law, and I would say that what is your account for that reason? What is your grounding or your ontology for that reason?
The one that I gave earlier, that I'm an agent, which means that I take actions to achieve goals. But in order to do any of that, I need my freedom and well-being. So if I need it, I need for you to not interfere with it. Otherwise, I couldn't have it. Which means that I'm saying that I have a right to it. I have a negative right that's saying like you all ought not interfere with that. And if me being an agent is sufficient for me to have that property, like the property that is like the right to freedom and well-being, then all agents must have that property. So all agents have a right to freedom and well-being to the extent that it's universalizable.
Yeah, but what do you say about somebody who has a worldview that they disagree with that?
Then they're wrong.
Like, but who's to say that they're wrong and you're right?
There's a
Like, how do
contradiction
you?
in their worldview, so they're wrong. Contradictions make you wrong.
I wonder why contradictions matter in an atheist worldview.
Yeah,
Like, I
because
agree that they matter, but I'm just wondering, like, what's your like, if somebody says, I don't care about a contradiction, I don't care about harm. I want to like kill 6 million, people in an oven, and I want to, propagate the white race and, do all these things. And, if you don't like it, it's nature, strongest survive. Tough
yeah,
kitty.
there's the contradiction on their worldview. So any worldview that espouses that people don't have the prima facie right to freedom and well-being, there arises a contradiction, the one that I laid out earlier. And then, based on that fact, they're wrong. The reason why they're wrong, the reason why the law of non-contradiction is true and in fact undeniable is because all it's saying is that, there are no objects that are not themselves. There isn't an object that is equivalent to not itself. And the reason why that's true is because in order to give an object that is not itself, it would need to have the identity that it's not itself, which would need to be a consistent identity, which presupposes the truth of the law of non-contradiction.
Gotcha.
So the reason why contradictions are bad is because you are claiming of yourself that you're wrong.
So the Talmud is saying the literal text states she will not leave like the male servants do. Talmud explains this is not a restriction on her freedom, but as an expansion of her ways to escape servitude. So there's a whole Jewish teaching on this, saying that she could have escaped from marriage. Can
What if they don't
I
get
don't know.
married? What then?
A male Hebrew servant goes free after 6 years at the Jubilee
Also,
year.
to be clear, I think that there are like pretty major consent issues with, get married to me or you'll be my slave forever. I think that
Well, it's
that's like,
based on. Well, I mean, it's a different time and a different culture, and
but
in the
that's like
Levant
horrific,
culture,
right?
I mean, that's what they did back then.
But it's horrific, right?
Well, the law was a form of bondage. So Christ came to set us free.
Well, listen, I don't want to get like super personal. I don't want to go for like the feels, but like imagine if that's the like situation that your daughter was in. Like picture if your daughter was like enslaved and the only way that she could get out of it was by marrying some dude. That's horrific. That's a horrible situation. This is such a horrible circumstance.
Well, I agree that there's things that God allows to happen that are tough. And, you look at like the earthquake that just happened or, children getting raped and stuff. Like, I admit that God is not like the puppet master and controlling things to be hunky dory all the time. And so he allowed the law. And it actually says that the law was a form of bondage and that Christ came to set us free from the law of sin and death. So the law was not God's, it was a schoolmaster for a time to show us sin, and then Christ came and brought the law of love, the law of the
Who
covenant.
gave the
So when I
law?
see God, Moses,
Where did he get it from?
God gave the law through Moses.
Yeah, why wouldn't God give like less horrific laws?
That's not so. That is a fair question, but that's not an argument against God's existence. That's saying I don't like the way he did things.
It's certainly
So
evidence against it. It seems to commit
why?
you to
How
the
is it
pretty crazy
evidence?
position that actually like selling people into slavery is actually totally fine in some circumstance. That in like a circumstance where that it's let me further clarify. It's permissible to sell your daughter into slavery in a circumstance where all you want out of that is money and for
Well,
no
if
other
it meant the
reason.
rest of your if it meant that the rest of your family was going to starve and you sold your family into indentured servitude to another family that you knew was going to care and protect her, then and she was going to be free after 7 years of Jubilee,
No, she isn't.
then or well, she actually they're saying in the Talmud that she had other paths to
Yeah,
freedom.
you had to get married is
So
what the follow-up verses there are.
yeah.
You can I think you get to escape slavery by getting married to the person who owns you.
Well, I've seen teachings that say that that meant that she shouldn't go out in the field. But either way, the law was harsh, and the law was a curse. Paul said the law is a curse, and the spiritual man is no longer under the law. Christ brought the law of love, and they had a distorted relationship with God because they couldn't see God. Jesus is the image of the living God. So if you want to see God, you don't look at Moses and the law of the Levitical law. You look at Jesus. And what did Jesus say? Jesus said, "Love your neighbor as you love yourself." Jesus said, "Turn away from sin." Jesus said, to turn the other cheek. Jesus said, "Do unto others as he would do unto him." So that's what the Christian worldview is. I admit that the law of Moses is tough. Doesn't mean that and I grant you that it's true. It's all true. It's the same God from the Old Testament, but he's under a new covenant, whereas our hearts were hardened at that time. That was a different era, and he has brought us into a covenant of grace, mercy,
Did
and love
God
now.
change his mind about the rightness of enslaving people?
God did change his mind in the Bible. He repented after he flooded the world. It grieved him to do that. So
But
God can change his mind.
then it says that God doesn't change his mind in Numbers 23:19.
That's in that context at that time. He was saying that he didn't change his mind about that certain thing.
It
I
says
mean,
God is not a
the book
human
is written
being that he
over.
should lie, or a mortal that he should change his mind.
Well, I didn't say that he lied,
But it
but
says, or a mortal that he should
there.
change his mind. By the way, also you do think that he's a human being and immortal, so
I don't think. Well, I don't think that he's a human being. I think that
isn't he
God. He
Jesus?
was
Is God
fully.
Jesus?
He was fully man and fully flesh. So he's a divine
Well,
man.
I'm
So
fully man and
not.
fully flesh.
I mean, fully man and fully
Sure.
fully God.
But
Fully flesh, fully God. Sorry.
okay, but then that just seems like a contradiction that God is a human being and God is not a human being. But of course,
It
you're just going
does
to say
seem
that
like a
God's illogical.
contradiction. I agree with you, Ian. It does. That's why I said God is outside of the law of
If
non-contradiction.
you were wrong about this, how would you determine that?
If I was wrong about it, how would I determine it?
Yeah, the way that
I
I
would
would
just be
determine that
wrong.
if
I would just be wrong.
if
I
I
don't know
were
how I would
wrong, the way that
determine
I
it.
would go about figuring that out is because there would be a contradiction in my view. There'd be things in my view that I can't account for. There'd be something like that. But if
There's
you're wrong,
tons of
there's no
stuff.
way that you could possibly know that because you think that God is illogical.
Well, and this is anecdotal, but a lot of it is on personal experience. I have seen signs and wonders. I've seen miracles. Not every Christian has seen that, but I'm just saying, like God, He will reveal Himself. And you can't say that I haven't seen that. You can say that I'm lying. You can make the assertion, but you have not lived in my life to see what I've seen, to see some of the
Listen,
miraculous prayers and Bible verses that have come to life. And God has given me enough evidence. And He's given us all enough evidence, like I said in your worldview, you give account for things like DNA and time and teleology, and you just say it's all just necessary and is, but you don't have any source for it. My source is God. You place your faith in yourself, saying that things are necessary and they have to not be in contradiction. And I place my faith outside of myself in God.
let's
You may
say,
not like what He does. Go ahead.
I got a question for you. Let's say the Bible was nothing but back-to-back contradictions nonstop for like 2,000 pages. Would that be any evidence at all against the truth of Christianity?
I don't think there's any contradictions in the scripture.
But
I think when you read it
if
in
there were,
context.
okay, well,
Yeah,
first of all, that's just not
yeah.
true, right? Because it says that God is both human. I mean, you want to say that Jesus is God, so it's going to say that God is both human and also that God is not human.
Yeah,
That God does
that
change his mind and that God doesn't
in
change his mind.
in our rabbit minds, that may be a contradiction. But if you look into like Eastern Orthodox teachings and stuff, they have like the essences and the energy. They're much more intellectual than me. I'm just a dumb Baptist,
That
so
stuff doesn't make
you're not
sense
gonna get
either.
you're not going to get it out of me, but I don't believe that that is a contradiction. But like, even if you were to try to say God was I don't believe that the laws, I believe He created the laws of logic for this universe for us to use them in science and things of that nature. But I don't believe that God can't be outside of the laws of logic.
Mhm.
I don't
Well,
believe that.
but that's what I'm asking is like, so if there were any contradictions, true contradictions in the Bible,
I don't believe there are
okay, but
any.
if there was, would that disprove it?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I mean, I feel like I've cited you like a number of contradictions.
I don't agree that they're contradictions. I think that you're preaching. You're giving your deconstruction dogma and taking things out of context.
When it says God is not a
2000
human
years,
being, which God is it referring to?
God is God.
Oh, he ripped his
Is
router out
God.
of the wall.
Jesus is fully man and fully God.
Okay, but when it says God is not a human being, who's it referring to? Which God?
He's not just a human being.
But it says God is not a human being.
And God is spirit, God is the Father, and God is the Son. And they are all one in essence. And they are three in person.
Oh, no, you don't want to say that because that means three gods. Okay, let me make this like super.
Three persons in one essence.
Okay, let me help. So you would agree that these three pens all have the pen essence, right?
No.
You disagree that this
They
pen
don't
has the
have.
pen essence?
They
You don't think
don't.
that
Yeah,
this pen has the essential features of a pen?
they don't have the same. Now, I'm not an expert on the Trinity, man. You need to talk to like Jay Dyer or somebody that understands the Trinity better. I admit I'm a dumb Baptist, so
Well,
you know,
but this
you're,
is like,
you know,
I feel like this point is super easy to understand, which is just that when you say that something shares the essence, that all three of them have the essence, that what's being said there is that you have three things all with the essential features of God. This pen has the essential features of being a pen. If it didn't have those features, it wouldn't be a pen. But, you know,
right.
when you have three things that all have the essential features of a pen, then you just have three pens. So if you have three things that have the essential features of being God, then you would just have three gods.
I mean, I don't agree. I don't think that I'm gonna do a good job of explaining it. And I mean, I appreciate that it's a tough concept. The Nicene Creed pronounces the Trinity, and I believe there's many allusions to it in the Scripture. And I don't purport to understand it perfectly. So I'll grant you that it is hard to comprehend. You know, you're going to say it's a contradiction you don't believe. You know, I mean, in my worldview, you're just angry at God because He holds you accountable for sin.
Oh,
But I
that's
still
like
love you
silly.
because you are my neighbor and you're created in the image of God. And I want you to
Okay.
repent. And it's been a good conversation. I'm going to get back to my kids,
That's
man. I
okay.
will
Fair
call
enough.
back in sometime. I appreciate that you're pretty respectful and willing to have a conversation and can, you know,
Yeah, respect is my
we
forte
disagree. We can
around
agree to
here. Thanks
disagree.
so much for coming on up. Appreciate you. I feel like I was not respectful. Oh my. Oh, what? Okay. Molly, I think that one's a really good clip. I might even do it because it's a Friday and because this dude's been waiting so long. I might bring that guy up. Thanks so much for Super Chat. Can free will and omniscience exist at the same time? I can't articulate why I don't believe so, but wanted to see what you think. I think there are problems. I think that the true contradiction is between free will, omniscience, and God's ultimacy. Okay, so let's say God knows something, necessarily that thing's going to happen. It's not possible that that thing doesn't happen, but what they want to say is that that thing is going to happen. The fact that God knows that thing is going to happen is grounded in the fact that you do that. That the grounding relation doesn't go from God to you, it goes from you to God. But that's a huge problem because if you ground a part of God, then God is partially dependent on you. A catastrophe, frankly. I think that's a big problem. Gurren the Zombie Dog, thanks so much for Super Chat. Starvation is so tough. Diss my Canadian dollars, you perish. Starvation is tough, and I would never diss your respectable Canadian currency. Staccato, thanks so much for the cool core membership. Appreciate you. Warmaha, thanks so much for the tier 1 sub on Twitch. Appreciate you. Gamer Guy, thanks so much for Super Chat. Look up all this debunked bullshit I believe in. True. Tucson, thanks so much for the 11-month Cool Core membership. Whoa. We got some pen twirling. Molly, thanks so much for the Twitch hype. Appreciate it. Ali, thanks so much for the 100 bits. Golden Capitrain. Marmaha, thanks so much for the gifted tier 1 sub. Whoops. Thanks so much for the 100 bits on Twitch. Appreciate you. Teamy T, thanks so much for the super chat. You know you hurt their feelings when they randomly attack Ian's appearance, as if that has anything to do with the prompt. Cry harder, theists. True. Yosiah, thanks so much for the super chat. I was an atheist, but then I abandoned the rules of valid inference. Based. Yeah, by abandoning the rules of valid inference, it allowed me to invalidly infer that God exists. Therefore, God exists. Fucking Giga Chad. Gamer Guy, thanks so much for the super chat. How dare you use words to make points? True intellectuals use interpretive dances. Banger. Hard work, thanks so much for the super chat. Thoughts? If God is simple, he can't ground composition. If composition isn't grounded in God, then ground is uncreated and not God. That's interesting. I think that that totally could be the case. That sounds like a premise that could be the case, that a simple being can't ground composition. That's right. Yeah, because I think it depends what sort of relata you want to say that grounding is, because so for the simple God, whatever grounding relates, God just needs to be identical to that thing. Like God would need to be like, maybe you want to say God is like a fact, like God just is a true proposition, which is like an obvious category error. Then you could probably say that he grounds things, because grounding is typically taken as a relation between facts, although Jonathan Schaeffer takes it as a relation between entities, not facts specifically. But then if God is simple, you would need to be saying that God is like identical to like entity-ness, which sounds silly, although I don't know. That sounds silly. I think most people who bite the bullet on simplicity don't give much weight to that sounds silly. Reverend Nate, thanks so much for the super chat. You hear about asteroid Ryugu? Exciting news. Nope. Go watch Philosopher's Football Match, Monty Python. That sounds fun. Professional, thanks so much for the super chat. Caller, you are so clueless and out of your league with philosophy talk. Stop being an absent father and stop trying to justify your beliefs on the internet with incoherent nonsense. That's true, right? I mean, I don't know, man. There is like a steady stream of people that just know nothing about philosophy, and they really want to express their opinion on it. Oh, pick up a book or something. Pick up Michael Humer's Knowledge, Reality, and Value. Christopher Sanford, thanks so much for the super chat. Watching Ian play with presuppositionalists is like watching a cat play with its food, except way more fun. I don't know. This is like the cool thing about philosophy, is that you actually start to like pretty brutally knowledge gap like precepts. Like I have an embarrassing confession, which is that actually like running into a precept was like the first thing that really made me like question and evaluate my worldview. I was seriously trying to figure out what it is that could account for something like logic. Like, what is logic? Why does it hold? How does that work? Something like that. These questions were like really tough for me to figure out, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe. And now I have like pretty good answers to that. And it's just like devastatingly one-sided, and they never know what to do. That's the magical thing about precept, is that they don't know what to do when you give them the answer. They just start freaking out. A Barnabas, thanks so much for the super chat. You don't even need the babies. Jesus was supposedly innocent, but ought to have been schmurdered. True. Based. Yeah, get him on out of there. A Barnabas, thanks so much for the super chat. If the early church and Jews didn't interpret the verse in the plain reading, it seems like God, like the God of this religion, seeks confusion. Yeah, that's a fact. Kurtful, thanks so much for the super chat. She shall not go out as the males do. Women can be owned forever. Caller is just lying at this point. Pretty obviously, yeah. Gregory of Nicaea also taught universalism. Based? Holy based? Fucking based? Virtuous Pat, thanks so much for the super chat. Indentured servitude is also bad. Why do they think that's better? I think it's like slightly better, still probably pretty bad. I still don't think that you should own somebody in such an exploitative relationship. Kurtfell, thanks so much for the super chat. Love thy neighbor is congruent with owning people. They are property. Not your neighbor. Caller's a liar who needs AI to check his BS. Excuse me. Kane Malice, thanks so much for the super chat. It's okay, Ian. We can't all compete with DB's hair. DB? Am I stupid? Okay. Kurtfell, thanks so much for the super chat. Dr. Blitch? That's right. That's funny. Oh, why am I so fucking stupid? Of course it's Dr. Blitz. Holy shit. Oh no. Oh no. Kurtfeld, thanks so much for the super chat. Caller just needs to stop incriminating himself. Yep. Brian Peck, thanks so much for the super chat. It was a different time and culture. Caller. Yes, exactly. True. Relax with Russell ASMR. Thanks so much for the super chat. Appreciate you. Ian, can we say that unaliving an innocent human is never a morally good act, but sometimes the morally bad act is the correct choice to make, like a less bad, but that doesn't mean good type deal? Well, Rosalind Hursthouse actually talks about this a little bit in the chapter that we're reading. Tomorrow at 8 p.m. EST, we're going to be discussing Rosalind Hursthouse's knowledge, reality, and value, whether or not you can call that action the right action. You know, that's a great hypothetical that I gave because it kind of demonstrates one of Rosalind Hursthouse's point, which is that, well, I don't know what I said, but it's On Virtue Ethics is the book. On Virtue Ethics, the chapter about resolvable dilemmas. Oh, fuck, did I say knowledge, reality, and value? Motherfuck, my brain is like just fried. Yep. But yeah, On Virtue Ethics by Rosalind Hursthouse. It's going to be great. Yeah, Michael Huemer is dead. Long live Rosalind Hursthouse. You know, we will not be intuiting the moral facts. We will be arriving at them based on careful consideration of our eudaimonia. That's a great question. We'll be talking about that sort of exact topic tomorrow at the book club. Coffee Mom, thanks so much for the super chat. Friendly reminder that when people describe their God, they use the same regions of their brain that they use to describe themselves. Convenient, right? That makes a lot of sense, frankly. Big Goofy Pass, please. Thanks so much for the super chat. If God isn't real, why does it hurt when I pee? Hospital. 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 Andrew Coates, thanks so much for the super chat. Big W for the $25 super chat from Andrew Coates. I appreciate you. Let's get a big W for you. Oh, fuck. Okay, gosh. 1 day, 0 AD. I enjoy your live stream. Do you take calls? I'd love to discuss. Yeah, it's on TikTok. You got to be on TikTok. Fuck. Do I want to do more? Oh, God. Fuck. Is this the virtue? I guess. Oh, fuck. Okay, I'll do it. Hey, how's it going?
Yo, man, what's up?
Yeah.
How you doing?
Doing well. How old are you?
I am 20.
Yep. What religion?
Christianity.
Yeah. And what makes you think that God exists?
2 reasons.
Oh, wait. I'm so sorry. 1 sec. My auto pill dispenser.
All right.
Okay, I've returned.
All right.
Yeah. What's up? What do you got?
So I got 2 things. I'm gonna be going over one. And that's gonna be my second example. My first reason is because God has given me His presence, and He has fulfilled what I asked for when I came in, which is a whole story that we're not going to get into. But
I appreciate that.
Second example is that there is so much evidence within the Bible to outside referencing.
Like what?
Like physical evidence. Like, for example, you know how you were talking about how did God create DNA?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. I thought it glitched out there for a second. So with these sulfur bridges that connect to every atom, and
that
are you still
can't
there?
possibly be true. That there are sulfur
Am I
bridges
glitching
that
out?
connect to every atom, because not every atom is sulfur.
Every atom in a sequence.
Every atom in a sequence has sulfur in it? That doesn't seem true either.
Within your No, every atom bridge.
Every atom bridge?
Do you know what a bridge is?
No. Atom bridge?
All right, okay. So how an atom has their electrons, and then those electrons connect to other atoms to make up a full one.
This doesn't seem to be a thing that exist. This seems to be a term that you just made up. I googled atom bridge and I can't find like references to this.
I'm gonna search it up myself too. Sulfur atom bridge. All right. We're gonna let that load. Right. While I'm waiting for this to load, there are stuff in the. A sulfur atom bridge is a structural feature where sulfur atoms covalently link different parts of the molecule, enhancing stability and reactivity in biochemistry.
Okay. Sure. Although like this isn't universal across like all like molecules, but sure, yeah. Let's say that like
Yeah, of
sulfur
course-
connects
of
some
course
molecules
not.
to others.
Yeah. So
what then?
It's in your DNA, and
Okay.
it goes in a sequence. So
Okay. What's the sequence?
There's first 10 atoms. It's 10, 5, 6, 5. That's
10.
the sequence where there are sulfur bridges. Like every 10 there's a sulfur bridge, then every 5 there's a sulfur bridge, and then every 6, and then every 5 again.
Okay, 10, 6,
And now-
5. So what?
Yeah, 10, 6, and 5. And
So
if you
what?
put those numbers into Jewish letters, you get Y for 10, W for 6, and H for 5, which spells YHWH, which is how the Jews spell Yahweh. God literally gave you a signature as his masterpiece.
Yeah, one sec. Let me ponder the nature of that argument for just a second.
Yeah, sure, man.
Okay, so here's how I make sense of this argument. So, okay, let's take your name, vpray, and then let's convert it to numbers using classical Pythagorean correspondence. We would get 4 for v, we would get 9 for I, we would get 7 for p, we would get 9 for r, we would get 1 for a, and we'd get 7 for y. This produces the sequence 4 9 7 9 1 7, whose, if you add all those together, you get 37. And if you performed an operation of dyadic reflection separating odd and even vibratory values, the odd values being 9 7 9 1 7, you'd get 33, and from the even values you would get 4. And because we're both humans, we're on an even playing field, we have to take just the number 4 at this point, and then we take 4 and we convert it to Mandarin, and we get su, which sounds like the Mandarin word for death, su, which is how we know that this argument is dead. So that's the refutation.
No. So you got Yahweh over many years as a name, which is supposedly to believe to be God's name, but there are multiple other stuff out there that says otherwise, like trying to argue against it. But that doesn't mean that it's not there. It's still like referencing to your DNA. There's still sulfur bridges in your DNA, and they are in a sequence, repeating sequence, and they do spell YHWH.
So, okay, here's the fundamental issue. Let's say we took Yahweh. Let's say we did.
All right.
Let's do the same Pythagorean correspondence to Yahweh. We'll get, for the letter Y, we'll get 7. For the letter A, we'll get 1. For the letter H, we'll get 8. For the letter W, we'll get 5. For the letter E, we'll get 5. And for the letter H, we'll get 5. Using the same vibrational sequence, when we add those all together, we get 7, 1, 8, 5, 5, 8. When we add that together, we get 34. We can observe that 21 plus 13 is 34. When we divide those together, we get 1.615, the golden ratio. Of course we can take the harmony of this conceals its polarity, so we need to separate the sequence into ascending and descending currents. We get 1 plus 5 plus 7 equals 13, and 8 plus 8 plus 5 equals 21. The symbolic interval between them being 21 minus 13 is 8. And from 8, because we've done this with Yahweh and yourself, we need to divide it by 2, giving us 4. So Yahweh is dead, because we convert that to the Mandarin word for death. So this argument died too.
Are you translating this to the Hebrew language?
We're translating it. It goes even deeper than that. We have to use Pythagorean correspondence in order to get the true base.
No, it's literally, Hebrew is a beginning language that the Bible started in. So by starting in Hebrew, we are going all the way back into history to what could possibly be what God was speaking to people who wrote in through him the Bible.
But math is the universal language, so it predates I Hebrew, which is why actually we need to go back to mathematics to determine that God is dead.
All right. I do agree that we are in a mathematical universe. Yes, God actually thinks in numbers. Honestly, it's really cool. Have you ever heard of a Barnsley fern?
Barnsley fern?
Yeah.
No.
It's a fern that, as its full image, is a leaf of the fern.
Barnsley fern. Let's see.
Yeah. Barnsley fern.
Whoa, look at that. I have seen this before.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So what?
So basically it's revolving in around itself. It's a mathematical formula. And it can be shown through the Barnsley fern. That is the whole repeating section.
Yeah.
There's also...
Do you know why, interestingly, do you know why this sort of thing happens? Why fractals appear in nature? It's because it's an efficient way to fill large space. Yeah, that's why, for example, you have all of the little fucking guys in your lungs. Somebody in chat's gonna know what they are.
Little guys in your lungs.
Yeah, you have all the little guys in your lungs that branch out in a fractal way. And
yeah,
it's
like branches.
To fill space.
Yeah, like branches.
I think, the ravioli, yeah.
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 But
that's why this sort of thing evolves.
Yeah. Other mathematical formulas are the multibrot, which
you mean the Mandelbrot.
The Mandelbrot. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
What about the Mandelbrot?
And you can say that it's a mathematical equation, and if you reference it to what it could be in the real world, a snowflake comes pretty close.
Not even slightly, not even a little bit, not even in the same dimension.
You sure, man?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it has these things are totally 100%. Yeah, these things aren't even in the same galaxy. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I've never seen a snowflake that looks even a little bit like the Mandelbrot set. Other than Dr. Blitz, of course.
All right. So this is a multibrot, and this is a snowflake.
You mean a Mandelbrot, or are you saying multibrot intentionally?
Yes. I keep saying multibrot. My bad.
Yeah. If your camera's on, I can't see it.
Oh, it isn't. Dang. This working? No, it isn't. How do I set it up? Oh, no, that is not it. Do you know how to do this? Because I am not familiar with this technology.
You should be able to press, and then a little thing comes up.
Yeah, settings. Do I have... Oh, I have to press the save. My bad.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a multibrot.
That is... Whoa, that is not the Mandelbrot set.
That's not the Mandelbrot?
No, the Mandelbrot. Okay, I'll pull up what the Mandelbrot looks like. That looks like a couple of
man.
Mandelbrots like fused together. Yeah, the Mandelbrot typically understood is this.
All right, yeah, it does look like that. A bunch of those together.
Yeah, you could probably fuse anything into anything, right? Like,
yeah, man. Like, totally agree. The universe is mathematical, but there's also a Mandelbrot. That I think that's what I'm thinking of. Mandelbrot spiral, like double spiral.
Mandelbrot spiral.
Yeah.
Maybe that.
A Mandelbrot set, double spiral. You know, that looks like a lot like a galaxy.
Kind of.
Yeah.
But I think you can find like mathematical objects that look like just about anything. Also, you know, maybe Dr. Blitz would be able to explain this because he's like a freaky physics fuck. But, you know, why do they choose all of like the freaky psychedelic colors for all of the fractals? Why do they never choose like the normal friendly ones?
Yeah, but I'm saying that God thinks in math, you know? Like how the laws of math are conceptual, God is conceptual, and how math is universal and God is universal, and math is also invariant.
I don't grant that God is universal or even existent. That's kind of the entire point of the discussion.
Yeah, all right. Well, then let's change the topic from math into
Also,
back into
do you
evidence.
think that do you think God can create mathematical objects?
Think about it, man. He created.
I don't think that
if I'm
you want to
thinking,
say that God can
I'm
create
thinking that he
these.
created, if I'm thinking that he created me, the universe itself, if he created gravity, and that it would be, and that Earth would be a giant ball, then
Did God have free will to not create mathematical objects?
Well, it looks like God set his mind on.
No, I know, but could he have not made mathematical objects?
Could he have not? I don't know what kind of world that would look like, honestly.
Yeah, I'm just asking if he had like the free will over that.
I mean, if he had the thought in the beginning, yeah.
Sure. So you think that they could have not existed had he not thought it?
I mean, yeah.
Sure. Then you don't think that 2 plus 2 is necessarily 4.
2 plus 2 is 4. It's not all. It's not.
But it's not
all the time
necessarily
7,
4
you know?
because
like,
God could have not have created it. So it's like contingent in that way.
Yeah.
Okay, I take that as a reductio that you don't think 2 plus 2 is necessarily 4.
2 plus 2 is 4. Yes, and it's always going to be that.
But it won't be that if God didn't create 2, which is why you probably don't want to say that God can create mathematical objects.
We're focusing on the what ifs. All right. Let me bring back into the conversation evidence. Okay.
Okay, but it's just so. Okay, it's a reason to think that God doesn't create mathematical objects and in fact can't create mathematical objects because it commits you to saying that mathematical objects are contingent when what you really want to say is that they're necessary. But
why do you limit God?
Because otherwise you're left saying silly things like 2 plus 2 isn't necessarily 4. It's only contingently 4.
You're right, but if you could put 3x plus whatever equals 21, like it's not always going to be like strict what x is for some times unless you have the correct number. You know, you're speaking what ifs.
It's a really interesting counterexample because that's like a great example. You know, if you fix the equation, you actually will find like a constant value for x, you know, necessarily.
Yeah.
But sure, what else did you want to talk about?
All right, so I'm gonna bring us into scripture. So in Romans 11:17, God refers to us as a tree, an olive tree. And when you look at the human body, if you look at your fingerprint, you can refer that to the age rings of a tree. It's not always going to look like it.
My fingerprint to the age rings of a tree?
Yeah, if you
Are
look
you
at
just
it
saying like they
closely,
look kind of
it goes
similar?
circle. Yeah, they look similar.
So what?
All right. Your veins
Does
look
it
like roots.
like what? Do you have like good points? Can I get to like the good examples? Like I don't want like vague similarities. I want like hard to explain connections.
All right. In all things are God. I'm pretty sure that is Colossians.
Why would I think that's true
1:17.
though? Oh,
All
also
right.
you for
So-
sure don't want to say that one because that okay. Try this. Do you think that God was in the Holocaust?
God was in the Holocaust.
Was God in the Holocaust?
I'm not familiar with super history. I'm not a history nerd. What is the Holocaust specifically?
You're trolling.
I know the Pentecost.
You're trolling.
I'm not trolling, my guy.
You are trolling. And the way I know that
shut-
you're trolling is that I didn't
I
even
shut
say
myself in
I
my
didn't even
room
say it
for
was a historical
most of my
event.
life, my
You
guy.
said it was a historical event, which is how I know you're trolling.
I don't know what the Holocaust is.
You
I'm
said it
sorry.
was a historical event, so you clearly know what it is.
I thought it sounds like Pentecost, so I automatically thought it. I'm sorry, man.
You're trolling. I don't know why you would troll about this.
I'm not trying to troll.
Okay.
Please tell me what it is.
Okay, you're trolling. That's it. Of course, I don't know, man. Like I simply don't believe you. I simply don't believe you. Grobalum, thanks so much for the super chat. Why not press believers on special pleading? I think I try to. Although I just think, okay, here's the problem is that I don't want to make whiny arguments. And I think that when you're whining about special pleading, it comes off like I think when you complain about special pleading, I think it's good to point out that there's special pleading, that they hold a double standard. I don't think that you should like sandbag on it. I think it sounds whiny. Which is why I prefer like more affirmative arguments. Anthony Bordolozzo, thanks so much for the super chat. Don't let Dr. Blitz, that scumbag, get you down, Ian. Thanks, Anthony. I won't. Nay. Reverend Nate, thanks so much for the super chat. A good God wouldn't let Vipre online. True. Listen, my brain is like totally fried. I'm ending stream. I love all of you. I'll see you all later.